All right. If you'll take your seats. So here we go. All right, so let's go. So my name is Brad Burke. I lead the group that is running this operation, and we're pleased to have you here in the finals of the 2025 Rice Business Plan Competition, and we're about to tell you who the 7 finalists are. Of course, I always have to say a few things before we do that. All right. What time does the company showcase start at the awards banquet tonight? 6. I think I heard 5 from somebody on my left. The bar is open at 2 o'clock, but the showcase opens, but you got to pay until 6. The showcase and reception starts at 6 o'clock. Judges and attendees, when you're there, you will get 3 stickers that are 3 votes. And what we would appreciate if you would walk around when you have one last opportunity to meet the teams, and if you would place your stickers on whichever team you like for whatever reason, we will count those during dinner. And we will award $1,000 each to the 5 teams that have the most number of votes through the stickers. So teams, it's up to you to be on your game. You may be able to pick up another $1,000 this evening. We will award $5,000 prizes from the company showcase. What time are we seated for dinner? All right, I think you guys got that, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, we will ask everybody to be seated for dinner, and then we'll kick off the dinner and the awards. I was informed to tell you that we also have a photo booth, so if you didn't get enough photos while you were on campus, you have one more chance. There's a photo booth at the Hilton Americas Hotel. So where is the banquet tonight? All right, you guys are listening. That was a gimme. So it's a Hilton Americas Hotel downtown. It is next to the George R. Brown Convention Center, and it is next to Discovery Green, if you're not familiar with it. So it is only about 2 miles up the road to downtown. So it'll be at the Hilton Americas at 6 o'clock for the company showcase. How about that weather? It's like this all year long in Houston. All right. So to give you the rules for the final round. The rules are the teams, just like the last couple days, have 10 minutes to pitch, and there is 10 minutes of Q&A from the audience. We have 4 runners, 2 down, 2 up above, who will run around, and please wait for them so you can speak your question into the mic. We will have 4 companies present, and then we'll take a 30-minute break to catch up. Get a little refreshment, bio break, and then we'll have the final 3 pitches. So we'll have 7 companies, as you know, in the finals. Judges, we'll remind you later about this. If you were to open up the scoring app right now, you would not see the teams in the app, so don't worry about that, because we figured if we put them in the app now, you'd go look for them. So we didn't want to do that, because I'm about to announce who the 7 finalists are. But at the end of the day, end of the round 7, the 7th presenter, immediately after that, please rank the teams from number 1 to number 7, just like you've done throughout the competition. So you will rank the teams from 1 best to number 7 least best, and that will determine who the winners of the competition are. Startups, I'll mention this a couple times, but startups, you need to be outside those doors in the rotunda 10 minutes before you are assigned to present. Startups, be out there 10 minutes ahead. You will not be able to listen to other presentations until you have given your presentation. Once you've given your presentation, you're welcome to stay in here, or you're welcome to head to the bar early. Either way. But you're welcome to stay once you've given your presentation and you're done. And as soon as one team is done, the next team needs to immediately come down here and get set up. You will have lavalier mics and you'll set up your computer or your presentation. So you will come down here immediately when the previous team ends. How will you know when the previous team ends? Because you'll be outside, you'll hear the applause. And then Catherine should be out there as well and help you make sure that you come on down as soon as possible, because we only have 5 minutes between each presentation. All right, I think that's more than enough of the announcements, because you guys know everything. So, all right, I'm going to tell you the 7 finalists. This was randomized, so this was random order. And I'm going to announce them in the order that they are going to present. The first of the 7 finalists this year is Pattern Materials from Rice University. Where are you? Pattern Materials, come on down. Come on down right now and get set up while I announce the other 6 teams. All right, and we know you're here. All right, the second finalist today, which will present at 12:55, is Resolution RWTH Aachen. The third finalist today, which will present, so the second finalist you present at 12:55, be out there at 12:45 to be ready to come in. The third company that will be presenting is X Adams from Western University and the University of Toronto. Where are you, X Adams? I may be saying that wrong. Where are you? Yeah, there, okay. All right. You go on at 1:20, be out there at 1:10. The fourth company that will be presenting is Farmsmarter.ai from LSU. Where are you, Farmsmart? All right. You present at 1:45. 1:45, be out there at 1:35. Got it? Perfect. All right. The fifth presenter this afternoon will be Mab Lab from Harvard University. Where are you, Mab Lab? Thanks, I appreciate your help. You're behind the camera guy. Okay, you present at 2:35. 2:35, be out there at 2:25. The sixth presenter this afternoon is Intero Bios Systems from the University of Michigan. All right, JR, where are they? Oh, there they go. All right. You present at 3 o'clock, be out there at 2:50, or before if you want. All right, the last of the 7 finalists in this year's finals of the Rice Business Plan competition is Mino Robotics from Carnegie Mellon University. All right, where are you guys? Where are you guys? Back. Oh, you're over here. I thought but you were over there. All right, so you present at 3:25. 3:25, be out there at 3:15. Be outside at 3:15. All right, with that, I'm going to have a lot of help this year like I did last year. I am so pleased that my friend, colleague, and partner in crime, John Reale, JR, is going to help MC the final round, so please help welcome JR. The last thing I'll say is that we're going to live stream the presentations today. We think that the mics will be muted between presentations, but you never know when there's going to be a hot mic. So beware, we are live streaming.
Which means Brad is going to be commenting or giving color commentary, Brad? Brad's going to be opening his computer. Apparently, Peter told Peter Rodriguez, or Dean Rodriguez, that if Brad could raise more money for the awards banquet tonight, him and the team at the Rice Alliance will get a raise. Right? So Brad is going to be emailing each and every one of you while we're here Watch, he's getting his computer out right now to do so. It's so great to be back here, I think for the is this the 25th anniversary? The 25th annual Rice Business Plan Competition. So first, let's all give a round of applause to all the founders, all the entrepreneurs competing in the competition.
Just tell them what they're doing. Yep. We got this.
Might want to do a mic test.
And while I'm still buying time while they're getting ready, if you're a judge for the first year, please stand up. All right, welcome. And let's hope to continue to invite more and more judges here in the community or people to fly in to participate in this great event that we have each year to celebrate technology and entrepreneurship. With that, are you guys ready?
We are ready.
So the ground rules are that clock is going to go down to 10 minutes. When it gets to 10 minutes, we're going to go right to Q&A. If you guys are still presenting, I'm going to start creep walking over to you like Brad has instructed me to do, and we're going to go to Q&A. And then from there, we have some of our great volunteers, part of the Rice community, Theodore, Jules, Jen, and Jason. We may call Theodore Jador, just so we keep all the J's. And they'll be facilitating questions during the Q&A. From there, we'll wrap up, and then we'll bring the next team in. So, Rice University team, are you ready?
We're ready?
Well,
Okay,
almost.
actually,
No, so the answer is not ready.
Sorry. I'm ready.
Joey.
We're trying to get the thing up on the screen.
Oh, it's
All right, so
thinking about
we went through our first-time judges. If you've been a judge for 20 or more years, please stand up. Yes! So for all the judges, their first time, this is an annual tradition, so get your calendars. As part of the emails that Brad's going to be sending to raise more money, he's going to be sending calendar invites as well, so we can all reserve next year to be here again, and to invite more friends and judges. So,
I need to load.
if you're someone who's invited another person to be a judge, please stand up. All right. Hey, as we learn in all of our companies, there's no better marketing channel than word of mouth. So, one of the other things that Brad and Peter wanted me to tell you all is, please go on LinkedIn, get your, and post about each of these presentations and let everybody know that you're here today at the McNair Hall for the Rice Business Plan competition. So please let everyone else know, so that word of mouth
11:56.
will translate into more and more judges
Yeah.
to be part of the event. How are we doing on the AV side?
Super close.
Our computer's a little cranky today.
All right, so. No, Peter had another announcement. So one of the other things we're trying to continue to do here in the Houston community is activate more founders, more entrepreneurs, more investors to be part of all the things that we're doing here in Houston and what we're doing through Rice. So Peter, if you are interested in being an adjunct professor, like myself, and are there any other adjunct professors or lecturers in the house? Please stand up.
Yep, that's good.
There we go. There's Jim. We need more of you. So Peter told me that if you're
got
interested, he's going to have you over for dinner to his house. It could be one-on-ones, it could be small format, but we're interested in getting more folks involved in everything we're doing here. So please go see Dean Rodriguez to talk to him about how you could be take another role here in our ecosystem. All right, how we doing? So, if you've been a judge for 21 years, please stand up. Cindy Boyd, I'll join her. All right. If you've been a judge for 22 years. All right, now everyone's standing. No, stay standing, stay standing. 23 years?
Yeah, it is.
If you can stand, 24 years. All right, let's give it up for all the judges who've been 24 years. We may start practicing the Q&A too right now as well. How are we doing?
We got it here, but it's not wanting to go up.
All right. Brad, how are we doing? You're getting your emails out. Your computer's not even open. And you told me that you were going to be emailing everyone feverishly to raise more money for tonight. Brad, how are we doing?
Wait,
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah, who wants to hear the pitches now? Hold on, I'm on a roll. So wait, so David Anderson just shared with me, while Brad is going to be emailing everyone, we need more sponsors so we could beef up not only the first prize, the second prize. What is second prize for tonight? $1 million? 1 million. So we need a match to get up to $1 million. We got the first 100. Can I get another 100?
Take it off for a sec. I'm sorry.
I think we're ready to go.
It's coming.
Or maybe not.
We're having. Yeah, we gotta press escape. We're having. It's hiding our images. Well, I think we could show a bunch of text, but it's not showing our images.
Enlarge that slide for a second.
Enlarge which one?
All right, where is Kamal and Barji? Kamal, are you in the room?
Select this keyboard.
All right, well, one of the cool things tonight,
this
Brad
one
mentioned
more
before, you're
time.
going to be getting stickers. Stay tuned next year. We have something else planned. But with those stickers, the Ambarji family, Kamal and Melanie, have been sponsoring this event. So that way, when you get there, when you get to the event tonight, at what time? What time should everyone be at the Hilton Americas? 6 o'clock. What time is the bar open, Brad? 6 o'clock.
Huh?
Or 2 o'clock.
This mouse, yeah.
It's opening soon.
Now go to full.
And then, where's Heath Butler? I know Heath Butler,
Having a hard time getting.
I think he's here. There he is.
Actually, it's-
Hey, does everyone know
completely
that
frozen.
Mercury is hosting the CXO Summit on May 7th and May 8th? And where is that, Heath? Where's that going to be? Where, right outside Austin? Is that the Lost Pines?
Yeah, that'd be preferable.
Now, if you want to hang
This
out
isn't even our
with Heath,
presentation.
Heath unfortunately has to hang out with me because I'm going to be there.
Yeah, it's messed
But if
up.
you're interested in attending the CXO Summit, it sounds like you should come talk to
Oh, we
Heath
got
Butler.
liquor.
Or text him. Heath, what's your phone number? Can you tell everybody your phone number so everyone here can text
Thank
you and learn more about the CXO Summit? 281-217. Yeah, and if you're paying attention to the phone number, you can also pitch him because he is a partner over at Mercury Fund.
All right, ready.
All right, and with that, I'm going to shut up. Let's go to Rice University. Powder material.
All right, first of all, can y'all hear us? I'm trying to think, do we have to lift this
Can
up?
you hear us okay? Yeah,
You'll hear us?
we're good.
Okay.
I think we just talk normal. Yeah, we're good.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We're honored to be here. My name is Alex, this is Lucas, and we are the co-founders of Pattern Materials. We are a company dedicated to making affordable graphene patterns that can serve as the backbone for the next generation of advanced electronics and sensors.
Now, sensors are tiny devices, but they go in some of our most important infrastructure. Everything from drones to cars, your homes, planes, and even items, even devices that nowadays we put inside our body. And as the future comes along, this is only going to become more so, because nowadays smart devices, autonomous vehicles, even biosensors are becoming more and more popular. And with this increased need, we have a need for the materials that go inside these sensor devices. We need materials that are more accurate, we need materials that are more versatile, those that are more durable, and with a better form factor. And so the way a sensor works is that you'll typically have a full circuit, but inside this big circuit you have a single material. And what this material does is it will react to changes in pressure and changes in the gas and temperature or whatever. And that material is fundamentally important to how the whole sensor device works. We propose on replacing this with our graphene.
Now, our graphene has already been used in thousands of academic papers around the world through all sorts of research groups, about 200 papers per year. And here are just some examples of the types of sensors you can make. A strain sensor with a 700 times better gauge factor than what's currently on the market, or a contaminant sensor with a single-digit parts per billion concentration that it can reach, which is 10 times better than the commercial standard right now. These patterns also are flexible, they're durable, and they keep their properties even when they're bent at extreme angles, even for thousands of bending cycles. This makes graphene very unique in this space.
And so with these technological advances and these advantages, we're entering in a very exciting material space. The sensors market is huge at $200 billion, and even the US share of this market is massive at $40 billion. Now, the graphene market alone is a very fast-growing part of this with a 20% CAGR, and ultimately other carbon nanomaterials, those are favored for the highest quality, most sensitive sensors, and yet they're very hard to work with, very expensive to make, and oftentimes carcinogenic to put inside your body. So we're targeting primarily mechanical, gas, and even biosensors in the future, and with this same graphene technology, we can then target a wider variety of applications using laser-induced graphene's neat properties. The other part of the magic, though, is how we make this. It's not merely a product, but it is a manufacturing process. This has two components. Number one, a laser. We can use any commercial laser system you can buy from the store, and a piece of plastic our favorite is Kapton. And what we do is we pre-program a pattern into this laser, and what it does is it lasers onto this piece of plastic and actually converts the plastic into graphene. This is plastic to graphene. And it can do so in any pre-programmed pattern we put in it, automatically without human intervention, with tunable properties so that we can lights out manufacture any type of graphene pattern that our customer wants for a wide variety of applications. And so if you compare ourselves to the other competitors in the high-quality carbon nanomaterials sensor space, we have some distinct advantages. Number one, we use one-step synthesis. Y'all just saw the whole process. We convert plastic into graphene in the previous slide. And because of that, we are able to make this in just mere cents per pattern. If you include the cost of the laser, the electricity, and the plastic, there's no need for specific harsh chemicals or special gaseous conditions. Our graphene doesn't rust, and it survives in a variety of different atmospheres, temperatures, and conditions, and it can be made directly on the surface, which is very important for implementation into an actual sensor device. Finally, you saw we're using a commercial laser engraver to make this. Guess what? They make bigger versions of those. If we scale up, we can buy bigger roll-to-roll versions of these to scale up. We proudly say our technology is TRL level 9. That's because this has been around in academia for a decade. It's been used in thousands of labs across the world in many different applications. We've effectively employed the entire world to do our R&D for us. And we can do this because we have an entire protective portfolio around this coming from the James Tour Lab, where Alex and I have been trained, with a variety of patents for the technology, the product itself, the process for manufacturing it, and the ability to implement it into a sensor. This means that when we sell to a company, we give them the material, they build the sensor around it, we are their only supplier. They can't make it without us, and no one else can make it. That means that we are uniquely positioned to become the world's first graphene pattern fab. And so as far as scaling up, as I alluded to before, we can just buy larger systems, right? Right now we have a system that's kind of like an at-home printer scale. It's great for small jobs. And even with this, we can make a centimeter squared of graphene every 10 seconds. That translates, by the way, to about $1,100 an hour of product. Guess what? If we buy what's called a galvo scanner system, a larger roll-to-roll system, we can automatically increase the scale up by a factor of 100 through lights-out manufacturing. And so with this superior returns on our invested capital, we don't have to build this, it's commercially available. These 3 fully automated laser systems could make 39 million patterns in a year.
So what does that mean for revenue? Well, believe it or not, each of these patterns could go for about $3 a unit. And that is because typically in the market right now, full-on sensors that are fully manufactured go for about $5 to $20 depending on the use case. So this, based on this estimated $3, yet our manufacturing costs are only about 17 cents per unit. This gives us a huge gross margin that we can play with. This allows us to not just have better sensor materials compared to the metal and metal oxides that are typically out there, but we can even compete in price. We want to make this as easy as possible for sensor manufacturers to use our technology to sort of replace the current metal oxide electrodes with laser-induced graphene versions. These can be very much the same shape, the same size, same form factor, so it's nearly a drop-in replacement. And we want this to be able to be directly integrated into the sensor devices that our clients are already using. And we believe that we can make break even with only 40,000 of these units sold. So, from there, where are we going with our marketing? Well, we've already been in contact with sensor manufacturers who are interested in our product, including from Millennium Media, which is an audio, high-tech audio company, as well as brief talks with Asahi Kasei, and so we're planning to definitely talk to them more as well. Millennium Media has already reached out with an LOI that they would like to use our materials for pressure transducer devices. So our first phase of our process here is that we'll reach out to smaller sensor manufacturers who still make tens or hundreds of thousands of units a year, and then move later on into phase 2, Honeywell, Asahi Kasei, Texas Instruments that each make millions or even hundreds of millions of sensors per year. This would be a huge amount of revenue for our company and allow us to grow into the value of hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. Also, that's a great exit, ultimately, if one of these sensor companies wants to acquire us. If not, we can continue to build out our production, diversify into things like memory devices, EM shielding and defense applications, or even space-based applications like foldable satellites. So with that, we can take a look at the financials that we expect. We're starting out this year, and so we're hoping that by the end of the year, we can start getting our first purchase orders, our first pilot programs with companies that want to use our sensors, so that by 2028, we can engage in that full-on 3 units, full automation that we talked about before. Now, with that in mind, keep in mind that 39 million units, if we can reach that by the end of 2028, means that by 2029, we could be looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue if the demand catches up. So that is where we're coming from with our revenue, with our margins. Finally, oh, that's not supposed to be in there. Just skip that. Wait, no, you skipped some slides, Lucas.
Right, it jumped ahead. My apologies. This is a different presentation.
Whoopsies. Well, anyway, I'll just tell you really quickly, our team is me and Lucas. We're co-founders of this venture. We've been working together for 4 years in the nanomaterials research space. Jolie, our part-time CFO, is studying computer science and quantitative finance at Stanford. Our professor advisor, James Torr, has founded 14 other startups from different technologies in his research lab, 3 of which have become public, which gives us an exit rate of at least 21%. So we intend to build on the 10 years of research experience that's already out there. We're going to continue to find new clients, reach new sensor manufacturers, get our scale up going, and reach globally by 2027, 2028, and become a major part of the graphene economy in order to make graphene work for all of you. So we're Pattern Materials. We thank you so much for your attention, and we'd be happy to take any questions you have.
All right, raise your hand for a Q&A. Let's start over here with William. Raise your hand if you have a question.
Thank you, gentlemen. Can you make clear whether you're actually going to manufacture and sell sensors or sell the manufacturing machines to people? If you're going to manufacture them yourself, I'd like to understand how you plan to scale up to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are manufacturing ourselves the material that serves as the backbone for these sensors, right? So we are going to sell the material in the configuration required to sensor manufacturers who will put in all of the other electronics in order to finally make the final sensor that they sell to the end user. Now, in terms of manufacturing and scale up, right? So right now, as we said, these small infrared laser systems that already exist can actually make quite a lot of laser-induced graphene, given how slow they usually are for hobbyist purposes. However, we can use up to these sort of galvo scanner, very fast laser systems that are designed to have thousands and thousands of units of throughput per hour. So we plan to have that connected in a roll-to-roll fashion to, as well, automated cutting machines, and be able to just get everything from the original order pre-programmed into automated cutting and then packaging, so we just have to come in the next morning and ship them out. That's the plan for scale-up, and that's where that 39 million units per year comes from.
Jules, let's go to John.
Can you tell us what your capital needs are for expansion?
Absolutely. Yeah, so currently, the current price for one of these individual fast laser cutters on its own is about $10,000 per unit, which is really not that much. However, when it comes to integrating it with other roll-to-roll technology, the automated cutting and things like that, we estimate that it could be upwards of $150,000 per unit. So the goal is that we would have 3 of these $150,000 machines, giving us a $450,000 total kind of capital investment into that expansion. And I should mention as well, because a slide didn't appear here, but that is why we're actually seeking a $2 million investment in order to make both keep the lights on for the time that this scale-up can happen, as well as to actually make the scale-up happen with that same capital, so we don't have to delay with another round of fundraising. So I just want to make that clear too.
Have you heard of the company Lighten?
No, I'm not, sorry.
I was curious to see there was not a mention of the company here. They're using graphene for building batteries, and they're like $1 billion company. They secured a $650 million funding to build a gigafactory, and they're doing the similar stuff in sensors. And interestingly, the CSO, who's my friend, is actually a Rice University grad.
Wow.
So let's get connected. I would love to connect you with him. They're building the same thing, so I was very curious not to see.
Great feedback, awesome connection. Yep. Is there a question or just a?
No, it's just please connect with me, and I would like to connect
Thank
with
you.
Keith through
Sounds
his
good.
work.
Robert over here. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, let's go here, Mike.
So do you have licenses in place to those patents? What's the term and what's the royalty?
Yeah, great question. So we are currently working on the license, finishing the final terms there, so I can't say exactly what the final terms will be. However, I can say that the Tor Research Group and other groups at Rice University have had no trouble recently getting licensing agreements that are very reasonable. So we're probably going to have a very small portion of equity given, as well as some amount of royalties based on revenues that we make, especially once we get up to larger scale. But again, Rice is very good about this, and other companies in the past have had no trouble with licensing.
Okay, a quick question for you. The using graphene instead of metal oxide, is that already being done? Are there other people who are already providing that so that it's acceptable to the marketplace?
Great question. So there are companies already doing that. Acceptable to the marketplace, not so much, right? And that's exactly what we're pointing out here. So there are other companies in this space. Some of them have been sort of in the startup early phase for many years. The reason is that the methods that they use to make their carbon nanotubes or graphene type of technology is not cost effective, right? So they can't make enough per unit given their cost to actually even cover their costs. And that's why they are not billion-dollar companies.
I'd like to mention nanotech listed here is a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is your value proposition lower cost to the customer? And if so, how does your price compare to your competitors?
Yeah, so our main value proposition here is actually the improved performance, right? We want these sensors to be better using our material, and we believe they can be, again, from some of the examples we showed about graphene's specific properties. However, we're also saying that we can compete on price, that our customers don't have to choose between the better material and the cheaper material. That's the case we're making.
We're going to go in the back.
Thanks for the presentation. Typically, the business cycle for sensors is you have to be designed in. Could you talk about your go-to-market strategy, what your beachhead use case would be?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely, yeah. So again, sort of like the go-to-market strategy is we want to start in a market that's smaller and kind of more manageable, where the companies are smaller, we can interact with them very quickly and get them using our technology as soon as possible. So that's why I mentioned, for example, Millennia Media, who wants to use our material. They make high-end sensors for audio equipment, right? So that's kind of the initial thing we can do is find companies just like them that make high-end equipment. That's where the beneficial properties of graphene really shine more than anything else. And then once we have those high-end cases established, it'll be much easier to sort of make the case then and branch out to other companies that are making other sensors so that they can also benefit from the improved properties, even though they're making them at larger scale.
For the work that James Tor has done in that group, all those patents you're getting access to, is that just for the purposes of making sensors, or is it a broader usage, and are there any other uses beyond the sensors?
There are some patents as well on the use of this as an anti-fouling agent. We want to focus in on sensors initially, right? There were more patents that I could have shown on other uses, but the three main ones that we're focusing on now, right, are production, the material itself, and then the implementation in sensors. But yes, we do have protection in a wide variety of other ranges.
Hey, if you guys could go to the financial slide, I was just wondering about your OpEx. It looked really low, so I'm curious what your operating expenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many people are going to work at the company? How capital efficient are you going to be?
Yeah, so I mean, initially it's going to be a very lean operation, like 2 people full-time plus part-time CFO, right? So of course, this is 2025 is prorated for the fact that we're partway through 2025 right now. But then we plan to have a very lean operation, maybe engineer, part-time consultant to help with marketing, just a little bit like that, because we want this operation to be lean until we can really make this expansion. We don't think we'll need a ton of people to make this happen.
On this financial slide, if you look at from 2027 to 2028, there's a jump in revenue, cash flows. What magic is happening here?
Yeah, great question. So this is based on certain assumptions about when we could get certain sensor manufacturers on board. So when I talked about phase 1 and phase 2, right, these different size manufacturers, getting a phase 1 manufacturer with a few tens of thousands of sensors already helps us reach break even. Working with a manufacturer that could make 1 million sensors of a particular line, now we're talking about millions in revenue. So the idea is that between 2027 and 2028, as we get this scale up happening, we're also trying to get those bigger fish, right, so that we can get to much higher revenue in the future.
We'll go to Austin and then Paul.
On this slide, I'm curious why ask for 2 million? I'm not really seeing a need for 2 million on here, and why not ask for a smaller amount to de-risk this and increase the value before raising more?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you do look at this, you have some of the operating expenses plus capital expenditures added up. If you look at basically like the 24 months out from 2026, you're looking at about $1.3 million and that's assuming all the assumptions here are correct, right? So we want to have enough padding as well that if there are unforeseen capital expenditures, we can make that happen. And that way we don't have to wait another several months to raise another round before we can make the scale up occur.
Paul.
Yeah, again, on this slide on OpEx, just following the last question, it seems awfully low. Are you getting free rent? Are you not paying yourselves? What's going on here? You're not paying any benefits?
Yeah, again, a great question, but again, it's in terms of personnel. Like we think it should be a very low operation. The whole idea is we want this to be as automated as possible. When you're looking at these machines, I mean, they're about, let's say, like maybe the width of this, maybe a bit bigger, and then out like this. So you're talking about 3 machines. Even if you're adding additional belts, additional automation to it, we're not talking about a huge amount of factory space that we need in order to make this throughput happen. So again, there could be unforeseen operating expenses, but the whole value, the value proposition here is that this is a very low operating expense opportunity.
Quick shout out to the ION. We've been talking to them about getting space for some of their facilities, and they have great rates.
Absolutely.
Carmelita, in case you can't see my name, I want to circle back on the 2027 2028 major jump in revenue. What is your time to cash versus your onboarding time? Because that's a lot to happen in a year to be driving $10 million in revenue. So I'm curious to get a little tactical for me so that I can just integrate timeline versus what you're showing me here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so yeah, certainly when we're showing just like the individual years, it's hard to tell like exactly when certain things are occurring, right? So of course, like we're going to be looking for, of course, the big fish to be involved with us as early as possible. We would certainly like to reach out to them as well. And again, we are in talks already with Asahi Kasei, and that's why it is possible that we could get very large purchase orders from them very early. But what we're sort of saying here is that the scale up is sort of gradually happening. It's starting in 2027. We're getting better at it. By the end of 2027, it's sort of reaching full production. And even then, this is sort of an underestimate from the full production you could achieve with these 3 systems.
And with that, we're at time. Let's give it up for Pattern Materials from Rice University. And if we could get Resolution from RWTH Aachen to come and get mic'd up, please come down now. in these last 20 minutes or so, someone has contacted Brad about adding another prize for tonight. Now, it may be because of the first pitch. It may be because you were so moved to continue to support what we're doing here at the Rice Alliance. Or it just may be that Brad is so charming. But thank you, and keep those messages coming. With that, please welcome Resolutions from RWTH Aachen.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcel Gaussmann, CTO and co-founder of Resolution.
And I'm Henry Winkler, CFO and also co-founder. Folks, I'm not the recycled version of my namesake, the Fonz, but we do recycle textiles, a game-changing technology with which we can go from rags to riches. But let's start with the sad truth. Our planet is awash in waste and garbage. And you all might think, what's new about that fact? We are all aware of the plastic island floating in the Pacific Ocean, 3 times the size of Texas, and the mountains of metal, glass, and packaging we throw away every day, as well as all that we put into our landfills. But a much lesser known fact is that almost 10% of all global waste comes from textiles. Every year, in the US alone, we generate enough textile waste to bury the entire city of Houston 6 feet deep. And this textile waste is not just t-shirts and jackets. It includes interior textiles like mattresses, sheets, and towels, automotive interiors, and even in construction as geotextiles or reinforcements. Interestingly, one fiber type alone represents more than 50% of all this textile waste. Polyester. It is a plastic fiber derived from crude oil that can be used to create all sorts of textiles. And we are consuming 71 million tons of it every year, consuming 500 million barrels of crude oil. And unfortunately, today we only have 3 disposal options: landfill, incineration, or dumping in the ocean or desert, like the textile mountains in the Atacama Desert, which are visible from space. But most importantly, the value of polyester we throw away exceeds $100 billion every year. So who feels this pain? Waste management companies who pay up to $400 a ton to landfill, incinerate, or dump their textile waste, textile manufacturers desperately looking for sustainable raw materials, and fiber producers completely at the mercy of oil prices and availability. To understand how we can relieve this pain, we first need to understand how polyester is made. Marcel?
It starts with oil. Oil is refined to make the raw material for all polyester fibers. Ethylene glycol and terephthalic acid. A tongue twister, so let's call it TPA from now on. They are monomers. Most of you have heard of polymers. Monomers are the molecular components of polymers. And from the polymer, the industry makes the polyester fiber. These fibers are blended with cotton fibers to make most textiles. And converting the polyester back into TPA and glycol enables eternal life for the polyester. So remember, monomers are the holy grail for polyester producers. And chemistry can convert polyester back into these monomers. But today it does not make sense. Let's see why. First, textiles are shredded and fed into a chemical process. Cotton and polyester are then separated by a series of chemical reactions. Cotton pulp is extracted and the polyester gets broken down into the building blocks TPA and glycol. But there's a huge downside. For chemical recycling, you need chemicals. They are added during the process and react to produce mountains of chemical waste. Salt. In this case, sodium sulfate. And folks, this is not table salt. If you put this salt on your French fries, it will give you diarrhea. Our recycling solution solves this major salt problem. Besides, we can handle any polyester containing textile. We produce exactly the products the market is looking for, and we can do that without depending on a green premium. So how do we do it? We separate cotton and polyester in a water and electricity-based process. The magic is our proton cannon, which eliminates the use of chemicals and the salt mountains. So we end up with reusable cotton pulp, TPA, and glycol, and No salt mountains, because we can recycle the chemicals and the water processed internally. So we have a much more detailed explanation of how the technology works and what the proton cannon is, but given the time constraints, if you're interested, ask that in the Q&A. To sum it up, we use far less water than others and also chemicals, and as we use electricity, we can save carbon emissions. When we showed that technology to a senior management in charge of textile recycling at Waste Management, this is what he said, and I quote, "The technology and process that uses electricity to eliminate chemicals really is a key differentiator from what I have seen in the industry so far." And this is from someone who knows the business. So we can sell our products, TPA, glycol, and cotton pulp, in closed loop to textile manufacturers who make new fibers. Or in open loop, we can sell TPA to other industries like packaging and bottles, glycol as antifreeze in your car, or a lubricant in oil production, and cotton pulp is a high-value ingredient for paper, like the cash in your pocket. This is literally made from cotton pulp. So with our high-quality products and efficient process, we can even compete with fossil-based polyester. And instead of selling the carbon we source from oil only once and dump it, we can sell the same carbon molecules up to 100 times. Does that sound better than throwing $100 billion into a landfill? So to protect our technology, we are building a strong IP portfolio based on patents, proprietary equipment, and trade secrets. Henry, we have secured the technology. How do we turn this into a profitable business?
Simple. It's not just a game-changing technology, it also has a profitable business case. We offer an elegant disposal option to waste management companies and recover high-value products from textile waste, which we then sell to the fiber producers or the textile manufacturers. Both waste management companies and fiber producers are banging on our door. From recycling use cases, we have obtained numerous LOIs from both customer groups. Medium term, we will also license our technology to other chemical recyclers to expedite market penetration. Because the market for TPA, which we enter, is huge. 90 million tons a year, growing at around 3%. And remember, there is almost no textile recycling, and we consume mostly oil to make this TPA. The entire market is ripe for disruption. Our journey started in 2018. We were funded by non-dilutive German government grants of $4 million, enabling a demo plant that is up and running in Germany. This year, we anticipate a Series A round of $6 million, of which 1/3 could come from the German government grant. This allows us to install our semi-industrial plant, resulting in commercial sales in 2026. In 2027, we intend to raise our Series B round of $25 million to finance the construction of our full-scale industrial plant. And this plant will produce 30,000 tons of TPA per year, with an estimated investment volume of $35 to $40 million and 24 months of construction time. Starting 2029, this plant will generate more than $55 million revenue and more than $25 million of EBITDA. It's highly profitable, and we will also create 150 jobs in manufacturing. This plant is so profitable because our manufacturing costs are unmatched. 50% less than TPA from crude oil, and this at $50 a barrel. This means we can even compete with crude oil at $20. It makes economic sense to recycle TPA, and it helps our planet. So we had to build this first plant. While our research hub remains in Europe, the United States seem very attractive. Our perfect location has cheap electricity, understands chemistry, and offers a world-class port for shipping goods in and out. Sounds like we're in the right place? It gets better. We intend to combine federal, state, and local grants to reduce our investment requirement to $25 million. So, to borrow from Dean Martin, it looks like we are That's right, we don't have a problem. With the revenue from just a single plant and additional license sales, we will reach $100 million annual revenue by 2032. at less than 2% market share. And we can keep adding plants as we grow. Just imagine the possibilities. As next step, our Series A will provide us runway until end of 2027 for our semi-industrial plant, delivering first revenue from product sales and recycling as a service, further technology de-risking, and entering long-term binding commercial agreements. And this sets us up for $100 million revenue by 2032, opening up various exit options, namely IPO, private equity, and merger and acquisitions. All these paths offer a unicorn-like exit at 10x revenue multiple. And this is the team behind Resolution. 4 PhDs from textile engineering, chemical engineering, and finance. Happy to go into more details in Q&A. We are Resolution, ready to change the world. Please join us in going from rags to riches. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll open up the Q&A. Please raise your hand if you have a question.
Hi, Chandra Revenur from Thai Houston. Good presentation. Can you speak to a little bit more on your technology, the proton cannon, and specifically if the TPA produced by crude versus the TPA that is recycled back, the quality is the same or not?
Great question. Give me a second to prepare for answering questions regarding the technology, because I'm a lab geek and I would like to. I feel more comfortable in that role. So, after shredding the textiles, our process has 3 chemical steps. First, we utilize an alkaline hydrolysis. For the chemical engineers in the room, we have a multivalent metal catalyst that activates the carbonyl oxygen at the ester bond, which then splits and is neutralized by the remaining alkaline solution around. For the others, it's just chemical scissors. The purification then takes out all the impurities, and finally we use what we call the secret weapon, the proton cannon, to separate the TPA from the glycol. So let's have a deeper look. When you look closely at the textile, you see cotton and polyester fibers are closely intertwined. Polyester fibers are composed by TPA, glycol, and as you like to wear colorful clothing, also dyes. In the first step, we cut the polyester fibers into small parts. And we are left with a colorful solution, mostly it's brown. And this solution contains the variable monomers TPA, glycol, and the dyes. In the next step, we need to get rid of the color and the impurities by a process called adsorption. Here we use an activated carbon adsorbent to take out the color. So it's like a chemical magnet taking out all the dyes and dirt. We are left with a clear solution containing the monomers TPA and glycol. Finally, we use our secret weapon, the proton cannon, to separate TPA from glycol. And now we have the holy grail for polyesters producer in our hands, TPA, glycol, the monomers perfect for reuse. And if proton cannon and holy grail sounds like Hollywood, where Captain Kirk meets Indiana Jones, it's not Hollywood. We're doing this right now in Aachen. This technology was the foundational research of my PhD and also Christian's PhD. And here we have a small video where you can see it in action. So we shred the textiles, fed it into a reactor. We dissolve the textiles in a reaction under temperature and pressure, and after that, the textiles are gone. Next, we take out the impurities and separate TPA and glycol with our proton cannon. Afterwards, we recover the glycol by distillation. And if you want to know how this proton cannon works, this is the scheme, but for the sake of time, I would like to answer more questions.
Well, I think you answered my question about impurities, because your feedstock is not homogeneous and it's not probably clean and everything. Do you have, are any impurities a kryptonite for your process?
So far, we haven't found any. We tested a lot of dyes, a lot of common impurities, a lot of foreign fibers, other synthetics like polyamide, elastane, spandex, and so on. So far, we can take out everything. Of course, it depends then on the feedstock quality. With more impurities, we lose some product, but this is just then the trade-off between feedstock economics and process economics.
So it appears that you have a massively disruptive solution. Can you talk to us about the depth and breadth of your moat in terms, you talked about trade secrets combined with patents? And also, can you give us a sense of proof points? Do you have a beta user, and who are they?
Yeah, good question. So, as I said, we have a patent filed for the process, which is owned by Resolution for countries which are very essential for the textile manufacturing. Besides, Aachen University owns the rights for the EU, the US, and the Chinese market, and we have an LOE signed granting us exclusive rights to license the technology for these markets. On top of that, the equipment design is very key to ensure stable operation of the process, and this is what we have developed over the last 8 years of Christian's and my research. And on top of that, there are some very key process parameters you need to know to run the process, and those are our trade secrets.
We're going to go to middle.
Yeah, so my question's around how are you going to source for making sure that you get a product that doesn't have other kind of synthetic material in there? Because you said you can take it out, but today, you know, all our garments are made out of not just polyester, but so many different types of synthetic fiber.
Good question. So I think this is one of the strengths of our process, because if you look at the textile recycling market, you will see others focusing either on high synthetic fibers or high cotton fibers. There are very few companies focusing on the mixed fibers, and based on our chemistry, which is a hydrolysis process, we can accept a broad variety of different fiber feedstocks. So we do not need material-specific sorting. As long as the feedstock contains polyester, we have to take it.
Leave it off to the side.
Charlie.
Yeah, I will do both.
Limitations because you're doing batch processing, number one, and number two, how long does it take to build a plant once you get one?
How much physical space there?
Good question. It's not a batch process. Our process runs continuously. And to build the plant, we now envision our semi-industrial plant to be built as of the end of this year. And as Henry said, for the full-scale industrial plant, we currently estimate a construction time of 24 months.
Okay.
And return the mics to me right at this door.
Okay.
All right, they stop.
Is there a way to
Okay,
de-risk this a
perfect.
little bit? It looks like from the financials, you have very little revenue. You invest
Thank you.
$40 million, and then you take off to great revenue. Is there a way of stepping into this, do a little bit of walk before you run, kind of process to make sure that you're generating $4 or $5 million rather than $50 million with less of an investment?
Yes, sure. So there are two ways there are two aspects to answer that question. So let me start with the technical aspect first. We can accelerate the scale up a bit if we partner with other companies who are currently developing processes like the one we envision for the textile recycling. For example, the French company Bios is currently scaling to an industrial plant for packaging recycling, so they take polyester bottles as feedstock, and we could just equip their plant with our technology to eliminate their salt mountains because they produce them. This would be a CapEx light scale-up path for us at the expense that no one currently is developing that for textiles, and we really see textiles as a better feedstock, but I think, Henry, you can explain the financials better.
Yes, so there's like the fast track as we benefit from a modular scale-up approach, that we can spread the capex over time and that we can build a 30,000 tons plant over time, start with 10,000, go to 20,000, go to 30,000, but start with revenue earlier.
On the exit, you identified being an acquisition target. Who do you see as your most likely
I will
acquirers?
just go like to find a computer and
So we have like a couple of options which hopefully in 2032 are equally attractive. First, we either go public through an IPO. Other than that, we could go for a private equity buyout. And last but not least, merger and acquisitions probably the most likely scenario, either from incumbents from the chemical industry or their polyester fiber producers who have bought a lot of mechanical recycling over the last decade, and they shift now their portfolio to chemical recyclers as an addition to their existing portfolio. And then on top, all the technology companies like Coke and Lummus, they would be attractive buyers as well.
there.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, that's good, Shirley.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Thank you.
So when you talked about building a factory, one of the fundings that you mentioned was U.S. federal grant money. If that grant money were no longer to be available, how would that affect your plans?
That's a good one.
I don't think so.
Look, as I tried to explain earlier, we have like this phased scale-up approach to be earlier in revenue and to be earlier in the licensing model. If we struggle to acquire public grants, I think we can also go to the venture debt side. Then, as we said, our customers are quite desperately looking for raw materials, and they already offered to take part in the project financing as well as in the project operations. But then, if it turns out that there is some CapEx missing, we can start with 10,000, then 20,000, and then 30,000, and we are still in good position.
Realize that most of these.
Let's give it up for Resolutions and Dean Martin. All right, if we could get X Adams from Western University and the University of Toronto to come down, and we'll pick back up in 5 minutes. Their seats. While we're waiting a moment, I want to put someone on the spot over here who had a big announcement. You know, one of the leaders here in our ecosystem has been doing so many great things around Rice University and our broader entrepreneurship community. Mitra Miller, please share with everyone the big announcement from, I think it was 2 days ago, around Eagle Investors.
Well, thank you. He's putting me on the spot. So I am thrilled to announce that the Eagle investors, so Eagles, would you stand up? The Eagle investors are high school students from around Houston. They come from Title I high schools. They are high potential and amazing students who are here evaluating, and they are judging, awarding a $25,000 prize. Thanks, everybody. You can sit down. But the great news is that we have been acquired by Goodwill Houston, which is a workforce solution leader here in the greater Houston region, and Eagle Investors is going to be part of their initiative into entrepreneurship, and it also is their initiative into high school students. So this is going to expand their outreach and to develop workforce solutions for more people in entrepreneurship. So thank you, Goodwill Houston.
In pure form, you always have to be ready to give your pitch, so congratulations. And it's great to have all the Eagle investors here. I know all the teams are excited about your prize for today, so thank you. Team, are we ready to go?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
All right, everyone, from Western University
I'm just
and the
university and passing around, so feel free to,
from Western University and the University of Toronto, please welcome X Adams.
Hello everyone, my name is Shirley. I am the co-founder of X Adams, and today with me here is Jesse, our CMO. At X Adams, we develop new materials to purify water. We use a computational method to discover 8 materials. It can eliminate 47 contaminants in water. There's a sample passing around for you to open it, smell it, taste it if you want, and just play around with it. We've been demanding for like a live demo for a very long time. This material, when added into contaminated water, it can, and exposed to light, it can purify the water. So this is a glass. I have some water in it, and this is a dye. So we're just gonna put all of the dyes in. We have some really blue water here right now. I'm gonna go back, put in our photocatalyst. I think I might need a little bit more of it. Usually we put it as a coating, but regardless, let it set for a while. You can see that it became already visibly clearer after a while, but we'll let it sit for the rest of the presentation. So with our materials, how I got started is I grew up in China. When I was 12, I drank water that looked clear to me, but it was actually contaminated with E. coli. I was sick for an entire month, and that's where I started X Adams. I got on the scholarship to study engineering and business and became one of the youngest researchers in water in Canada. And this is a photo of me doing my research in South Africa, and I met communities who are also lacking access to clean and safe drinking water, just like I once did. Current filtration solution can often turn a dirty water into clear water, but it's often not clean. What if there's E. coli in it? Would you drink it? The invisible contaminants are the deadliest killers.
Water pollution not only happening in places like China, South Africa, it is also happening right here, just outside our doors in the US. We all remember the Flint water crisis in Michigan and the toxic PFAS chemical pollutants containing inside our water. Now it's time for us to find a solution.
We discovered a material called a photocatalyst. This material, when added into contaminated water exposed to any light source, sunlight or LED, it can create a safe, clean, and drinkable water within under 30 minutes. And this is our sample tested with E. coli. After 10 minutes, it is visibly clearer, and after 30 minutes, it's drinkable. And we have the live demo running here. Let's check out the result later. We are streamlined our discovery process with an AI and quantum chemistry algorithm. This helps us to analyze the cost of the material to make sure that it's affordable, and we also simulated using the quantum chemistry algorithm to see how it interacts with different contaminants. This enables us to develop the most efficient photocatalyst materials. We discovered 8 so far, and
while chlorine and UV can only target the biological pathogenic germs, our solution goes far beyond. Our photocatalyst can eliminate the whole list of 47 contaminants, including chemical pollutants like atrazine, heavy metals like mercury, lead, where chlorine cannot touch them. To better target our customers' pinpoints, we also conducted more than 200 stakeholder interviews, including regulators like EPA, NGO like UNESCO, and corporations like PepsiCo. And that's what they all mentioned, especially for the big corporations. They said the current solution cannot take the exact contaminants they want. It is too energy intensive, it is too expensive, and they have to wasting their time, keep replacing for each few months. So that's how our solution comes up. Our solution is 4 times more efficient and 2 times cheaper than the traditional solutions using chlorine and UV. And more importantly, our water does not taste like the pool water. Our water tastes better.
And it is durable. It lasts for an entire year. So if you open the tube, the sample that I was passing around, it is using as a coating onto different surfaces. It can be coated onto water pipes, to filter bags, to meshes, as well as to reactors. This coating application gives us the flexibility to apply it under different situations. And last year, we're able to bring our solution from the lab to real life applications, and we obtained all the regulatory licenses required, such as NSF, and this enabled us to hit $1 million in sales. Yes, we're in profit. Our first one is with camping filters in the US. It's right in Dallas, Texas. They are introduced to us by one of our bigger corporate clients because they want to see and test out our solution on a smaller scale first. Thus, we start collaborating with them. We are coating our photocatalysts inside their camping filter bags. Currently, they're using chlorine as a solution, but their customer hate the taste of it, and also it only eliminates the bacteria, where we can do the chemicals and the bacteria while no taste. And this, we are able to get 70% in profit with this business. Our second test case is in Kenya, where we're coating water pipes at the water kiosks. These water kiosks are selling clean water to the community to make money, and they're using our solution for purification because currently they use reverse osmosis, but it's 2 times more expensive compared to ours. We afford our affordable and provides similar quality. And the third one is a river cleaning project happening in South Africa. This is a test case of a bigger use case where we are putting a mesh inside the river water, and as the water passes through, we leverage natural sunlight that shines on the mesh, interacts with our photocatalyst to lower the E. coli level. This application can be used for mining tailing ponds as well upon the success of the pilot. We are already in $1 million in profit. We have helping over 106,000 people to get access to clean water, as well as purifying 3 billion liters of water. And our next step is to scale. We are already in negotiation with companies like Canadian Naturals and Corporate, where we're for a larger $10 to $50 million size contract for cleaning mining tailing ponds. The water market is huge, with over $500 billion in opportunities. And we are designed to scale. We're currently manufacturing in Toronto in our own lab facility, but our process is designed and also can be drafted and sent to local manufacturers where our customer is. So depending on where the customer is, we work with local chemical manufacturing plants to produce 10 to 100 kilograms per day for ramped up. And we are safe. You might ask, how do we test? Yes, we do toxicity tests, we do the leaching test, we do contaminant removal test, and we benchmark ourselves to some of the highest water standard from NSF 61 to EPA as well as Health Canada standards for clean drinking water.
And our photocatalyst is innovative material that can be applied in different applications. So we get started from the drinking water market with the application to industrial water treatment, air purification, hydrogen production, and self-cleaning surface. Our next focus will be industrial water treatment.
And we're a strong team. I have a background in engineering, been in water space for the past 7 years. Jesse have helped to scale startups from pre-seed all the way to Series B, have 5 years in marketing experience. Diana won the World Water Prize from the Swedish Royal Family and one of the top researchers in the world. And Karam has helped us to build the discovery platform that enable us to discover more photocatalysts for diverse applications. And our team was being listed on Forbes 30 under 30 in North America last year. And we're advised by world-class advisors, including the Department Head of Chemistry at the University of Toronto, Professor Doug Steffen, and the Head of Climate Tech at AWS. We're in collaboration with Matt Damon, the founder of Water.org, and this enables us to get more pilot opportunity, and our goal is to scale to $100 million in the next 4 years. We are able to yield from going from the pilot scale to industrial scale. It will enable us to go from 19% profit margin to 28%. And our first investor came from Alexis Ohanian, the founder of Reddit. We're asking for $2 million today, and this will help us to expand our team for industrial use cases. I grew up without access to clean and safe drinking water. 4.4 billion people today still lack access to clean and safe drinking water. With your help, we want to make it zero.
Great job. Let's start the questions right over here, Jason. Please raise your hands if you have questions.
Excellent presentation, though. I want to ask you a question regarding the catalyst, though.
Yeah.
You in the process, you had the catalyst exposed to light, and what happened to the catalyst? Do you go through the filtration, or if catalyst stays in the water?
Yeah, so usually we apply it as a coating of the catalyst, so the catalyst doesn't usually mix with the water. Here for the demo, we just put it in as the powder form, but usually it doesn't, it will just stay as a coating, and it's actually reusable for 1 year. So you can see on the diagram here where we put it as a 0.5 millimeter thick coating, and then it will stay as a coating and last for a year.
Let's go to Richard.
Thanks. You guys are obviously great on catalysts, but of course it's photo. Can you talk a bit about the light sources that you need and how much brightness, et cetera?
Yeah, so we target a visible light source. So right now here, I'm just using an LED light. The differentiation with us and traditional method is traditional methods use UV light, and we don't require the entire UV infrastructure.
Omar. Yeah.
Can you tell me what impurities you're not able to remove? And I didn't see a slide on your competitors.
Yeah, so we are not able to remove microplastics or any physical contaminants. So we deal with the invisibles, and that's where we are good at. So we usually have partners that help us to deal with the physicals, and we remove from E. coli all the way to heavy metals. Those are the best ones that we do.
Go over here.
Oh, thanks. Part of your scaling strategy, you mentioned that you can manufacture close to wherever your customer was. What's the percentage on how many manufacturers have all the tools and manufacturing components necessary to make your product? How reasonable is that scaling strategy?
Yeah, great question. So we usually, at our current scale right now, when we're working with a manufacturer, we do a batch process, and then during their batch process, they will produce one batch of 100 kilograms, for us, for example, just for 2 days of production. And then there's specific calibration that we'll provide instructions with. This is our trade secret and our know-how, but we do supplement them with enough instructions to follow. And I would say 50% of the treatment chemical production plants is able to meet our standards.
Go in the middle.
Yeah, great presentation. I'm hoping you're going to taste it for us at some point too. But
Jason.
you had 3 use cases that you mentioned, and I was wondering your projections on revenue and the business model that you showed. Are they dependent on one or 2 of those use cases more than the others? Which one are you kind of betting on? Which one do you think will be more profitable?
Yeah, so we think the most profitable one specifically would be on the industrial scale application. We want to go into treating mining tailing ponds, and the reason why is our ability to target the specific like high concentration of like contaminants inside these tailing ponds, like high concentration of like cyanide, selenium, or like the heavy metals. We see that as the most profitable, which is linked to our river cleaning pilots. The contract size that we have signed right now is $933K. So, yeah.
We're going to go to Austin, then Charlie, then George.
Over here on the right. I think on one of y'all's slides, I misunderstood it, but did y'all say y'all made $1 million in revenue?
Yes, so these we have signed the contracts for these 3 pilots for $1 million in total, and it is in trenches. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Charlie.
You mentioned mining, but there's obviously, we're in an oil and gas world. We have plenty of production, and we have obviously lots of abandoned wells. This is certainly applicable to that, I think, but you haven't been specific. It would solve an enormous problem for our aquifers and contamination. Is that still part of your plan? Does this catalyst do that?
It's definitely a part of our plan, but we do recognize that we cannot do everything all at once as a startup. So if you have pilot opportunities, feel free to reach out to me, and we can look into how.
Yeah. All right, let's go to George.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Over here, you're right. No, you talked about the form function. It was a powder going into your water, but then you said actually it's a coating. But then in your slide, you're selling it in bag form as a powder. How hard is it to convert that into a coating, and what's the process there, and in what form factor is the ultimate sale?
Yeah, the ultimate sale is the coating form. So like the bag that you see, we're selling to this company that makes the bag, and we do the coating in their bags. So you don't see it because it's like a coating inside the bag, if that makes sense. So we also do the coating inside like the water pipes, or we do the coating onto the mesh, but it's like it's kind of like your non-sticking frying pan. You have a coating on it. We are the one that is selling the coating specifically. Depends on the different use cases.
All right, we're going to go to Paul, and then we'll go to John.
Okay. At the very beginning, over here, at the very beginning, you mentioned the role of AI in selection.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's several startups out there that's doing AI for catalyst selection.
Right.
So are you selling a single catalyst product? To what extent do you tune the catalyst for different contaminants? Do you imagine this being a whole set of SKUs, or is this one?
Yeah, so we have 8 different materials in stock right now, and then we are on trajectory to discover 400 more materials, because we recently expand our data set from 16,000 molecules to 850,000 molecules in our AI database. So this enables us to target specific contaminants in water. The AI is really just an enabler for us to sell better coatings and the better photocatalysts for different applications.
Okay, here. Can you help us understand how much surface area the water has to touch along the pipe, how long that pipe is, and how much light exposure is required? And then a second question, in terms of removing metals, are the metals dissolved into gases that simply evaporate? And elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, so starting with the pipes, so we are using the water kiosk as an example. So our water kiosk goes for 20-meter pipes, and the radius for the pipe is 10 centimeter. So as the water flows through, it eliminates the contaminants inside the pipes. So that is the application that we have for the piping, and then specifically for the lead or like heavy metals in general. So currently, the heavy metal is like floating ions in the water, so it is invisible and you cannot capture it. So what it does is able to turn these heavy metals into solid form, and then we're able to filter out the sediments after. Exactly.
D.
Yes. So you said your product has to be coated. What are the challenges on what? Yeah, the challenges in coating what kind of material it can be coated on, and is that your trade secret of coating to specific materials?
Yeah, so that is our know-how and trade secret on coating different materials right now. Right now we can coat on like steel meshes. So we are also figuring out coating for like the different materials. That's also a part of why we're fundraising for $2 million right now to help us with the coating applications. And it is also, but that unlocks a lot more applications essentially.
Let's go to former RBPC winner Nick Seat, right there.
I'd be interested in hearing your take on competition, and specifically reverse osmosis, the lion in the room.
Yeah, so for reverse osmosis specifically, it is a really good solution, but it's expensive. So we're able to target and be beat on the price side, and it also requires heavy energy requirements, which our can leverage natural sunlight, so a different condition. So when you're treating like large tailing ponds or oil and gas industries and processing large amount of water, our solution will be more cost effective and efficient at a larger scale.
All right, everybody, let's give it up for X Adams from Western University and the University of Toronto. And let's have Farmsmarter. Well done.
Oh, sorry.
I realize that. And for that, let me turn that back to my partner in crime over here, Brad Burke, the Managing Director of the Rice Alliance. Brad Burke!
So JR kind of already partially spilled the beans on this, but I was going to tell you that we do have in our presence the 2005 winner of the Rice Business Plan competition. But that was the very first year that the Goose Capital Group, when they started the investment prizes. So that year, the Goose Prize was $100,000. The Goose Groups, after the winner was announced, they met with Nick after the competition. They said, we don't want to invest $100,000 in this company. And we were like, yeah, but this is the first year that we're doing this. Well, they ended up investing $1.1 million in Nick's company because they liked it so much. And then a few years down the road, the company sold to Adobe for over $100 million. And so Nick has been great at giving back every year and helping to mentor. He's got another startup that he's working on. And he came all the way from New Mexico with his daughter. And I just wanted to have everybody acknowledge Nick and his daughter, who's here to help out and be a part of the competition.
All right. Welcome back, Nick. It's so good to see you. With that, we have the team that emerged from our wild card round from Louisiana State University, Farmsmarter.ai.
No doubt. Thank you for the kind introduction. Definitely go Tigers. Hello, everybody. We are Farmsmarter.ai. My name is Colin Raby, Farmsmarter CEO.
My name is Grant Muslow, CTO, and I'm getting my master's in artificial intelligence.
My name is Cola Coleman, a third-generation farmer and pursuing my agricultural consultant's license. So, farmers make a lot of decisions every year. They are the backbone of America, and what they do is extremely complex. They have to go through a ton of regulatory compliance burdens with razor-thin margins. So let me just give you an example of one little issue that we might have to solve. In a field, usually I go and I might have to identify a weed that can actually choke out my crop if we don't manage it correctly. If the weed goes unidentified, I'll have to search through a lot of general info or have to ask around from other farmers and consultants in my area. Usually they'll point me to a 500-page Ag Center manual that I have to find the active ingredient to best manage this pest in my specific crop with my crop-specific genetic resistance trait. Now I have to research what products I have to buy that have that specific active ingredient. Now I have to go and then research how and when to apply that specific product. And guess what? I have to do this multiple times a year, every single year, because new chemistries and research are constantly coming out. And on top of that, the ESA just recently came out with a new compliance regulation that is about 250 pages thick.
Plus,
as you can imagine, this is all very time consuming. It's extremely frustrating. We spend a ton of money on these inputs in our crops. So there's no wonder why there's over 3,000 agricultural consultant companies in the United States alone. No wonder why the estimated market for agricultural consulting is so large. So we aim to automate this entire process through Farmsmarter.ai.
Exactly. We decided to ask the question, what if the entire problem that Cole laid out at the beginning could be solved with modern technology? And that's why we set about to create Farmsmarter.ai and our flagship, Farmer.ai. Farmer.ai is a virtual agricultural assistant right in the palm of your hand. He can give you personalized recommendations for the specific challenges your farm or field face, considering integrated pest and weed management practices and a lot of other information so that to save you time and money in optimizing the output of your field. So let's take the example Cole gave. If he was using Farmer.ai, he could have just taken a picture of the weed. Farmer.ai would have said, this is the weed it is, and then he could have put in some information about his farm, and Farmer.ai would have given him a detailed action plan for exactly what to use, how to use it, and it would incorporate all this information about the local weather, local regulations, and everything that he has to know. And we created Farmer.ai through our one-of-a-kind agentic agricultural intelligence platform. So Farmer.ai has access to all different types of information, whether it's local research documents coming out of your local extension service, whether it is documents from the huge departments like the EPA and the USDA, or whether it's a ton of different tools that integrate weather and other live components, so when it's giving you the plan, it's customized for not only where you are, but when you're making that plan. And we look to continue making Farmer AI even smarter. So, our tool can provide value throughout the agricultural industry. However, we're going to start as B2B, targeting the agricultural consultants and the ag business. While our tool in the long run will provide great value for small farmers, many of which can't even afford a consultant right now, so don't have access to any agricultural intelligence, we're starting, most of our current clients are the agricultural consultants themselves, because this is helping them do what they do better. It's saving them time and helping them make more money, because they can spend less time at their desk doing research and more job getting new clients and go out and scouting fields. Additionally, with the big ag businesses, whether it's fertilizer analysis, I'll mention Waters later, where we can take all of their data and come up with a comprehensive plan for what to do with all the tests that they're getting from the fields. Or just general sales information for these complex pesticide companies and integrating all this different agricultural data. In summary, Farmsmarter.ai will save thousands of hours and millions of dollars by avoiding the misapplication and misuse of pesticides, shortening the time it takes to solve the most complex agricultural problems, reducing negative environmental impacts, increasing the use of safe and sustainable practices, all while seamlessly ensuring regulatory compliance with the most up-to-date regulations. So, after winning our university's pitch competition last year, we got to work making our minimum viable product, Farmer AI, and launching him just 2 weeks ago. And now we're realizing it, we're getting all this phenomenal feedback of ways we can use this central agricultural intelligence engine to solve so many other opportunities in the field of agriculture. So now we're looking to build out the platform to really capture the opportunities before us. So if you go onto the App Store right now, you can find Farmsmarter.ai. You can also type Farmsmarter.ai into your search bar and find our website. A really great example, this was what Blaine is a 5th generation farmer who's worked with all sorts of different consultants. He was one of our first beta testers and has been using it for months, is now one of our most active testers. And we asked him for some feedback before coming here. And he said that not only had it recently given him a specific and detailed breakdown, but in his opinion, it was as good or if not better than the consultants that he's worked with. So when it comes to going to market, as mentioned, we are a SaaS B2B. All these ag centers and the consultants and the businesses and even the farmers themselves run very complex businesses, and we're helping them be more profitable. We also want to create microservices like APIs so that industry leaders can incorporate our agricultural intelligence engine into their software, and have enterprise, like what I'm about to mention with Waters, to make fine-tuned custom versions of our system for them with their information. As well, we want to negotiate deals of access management, we want to get independent university validation, and partnerships with ag agents and such that people already trust in the industry.
There are a couple of services out there, such as ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, that upon first glance can look a little bit similar to what we're doing here at FarmSmarter. Well, let me tell you why we knocked them out of the park on every single agricultural specific benchmark. First off, our system gives agricultural specific, highly specific agricultural answers that are backed by databases and databases of agricultural specific information, including 16,000 EPA approved pesticide labels. On top of that, our system is agentic, meaning that it is able to call agricultural specific tools that these other foundation models just do not have access to. As well, our system has a photo identification system that is able to identify weeds, pests, insects, and everything else that would come up in your farm. And finally, you can literally draw out your field and analyze your geospatial data so that you're able to really get the correct information for your field.
And I'd like to highlight here one of our more direct competitors, FBN. FBN recently came out with a chatbot that they like to call Norm. So I went to it and I tested it out and I asked it this question: should I use glyphosate on Johnson grass in Louisiana? And not only does it give you a wrong answer, but it actually tries to sell you the product and make a profit off of you.
It turns out both of these products would be most profitable for them. However, Johnson grass is resistant to glyphosate in most of Louisiana, so it's not actually a helpful answer. Well, if you compare that to our system, not only will it give you an accurate and correct answer identifying that there's glyphosate resistance, but it will give you very specific information on not only what to apply, when to apply it, how to apply it, safety considerations, and other considerations that you need to know if you're going to actually use this product. And if you doubt it, you can check it. It's all cited, and it'll show you exactly where in the local literature or the regulatory documents the information comes from. How are we able to do this? This is a very simplified diagram of our agentic network that allows for unprecedented accuracy, speed, and affordability. We are really fortunate to be getting a lot of great feedback from both tech and ag, and were recently presented at the Louisiana Association of Agricultural Consultants, where from then, we're now in talks with major ag companies about doing a partnership. Everyone from the Ag Center to the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, Syngenta, BASF, and Waters Ag Labs, who recently sent us all of their different nutrient information so that we could run a beta test that's now being reviewed by the leading soil scientist of Louisiana, and as soon as we hear back there, we expect to close a deal with Waters. Some of the critical risks we face are inaccuracies and laggard adaptation primarily. On the inaccuracies front, while we have our citations and automatic updates, because of our innovative architecture, in our initial testing, because all the results are grounded, we've had a 0% hallucination rate in all of our initial testing, and we're continuing to create even more tests to really push our system. And with laggard adaptation, we really want to make it an economic no-brainer and partner with those trusted entities to use this and be super spreaders within agriculture. We have a development pipeline for our system that we'd love to get into more in questions. We're looking to raise $600,000, but in the last 48 hours, we won the Louisiana Pelican Cup and their elevator pitch and got an SIF grant. So now we're asking for $513,000. Thank you. We're happy to get into this more in questions. Our exit potential is huge because of a couple people that have preceded us in the industry. We really see an opportunity to build out this platform and then partner with a major ag player. These are our projections that we're happy to get into more where those came from of our sales projections. We look forward to building the platform for agricultural intelligence. Together with our advisors and your support, we're going to help everyone farm smarter. If you scan that, it'll bring you to our app or our website, by the way.
Great work. Let's go to Heath Butler from Mercury.
Hey guys, great presentation. Can you tell us more about the business model and a little bit more about the source of the data feeding the databases that you're using?
Absolutely. So I'll speak about the business model and then hand it off to Grant. So our business model breaks down into two major sources: straight to the consultants and straight to the ag businesses. For the consultants, eventually the pricing will go up, but right now we want to get the super spreaders and basically the people that otherwise would have been beta testers but are willing to pay for our service. So we're currently at $50 a month or $500 a year, which most consultants, when we talk to them, say, that's it? And that's exactly what we want, because we want them to start using it to gain that industry trust, and because they talk to so many people, they're going to be our super spreaders, and then we can obviously modify that down the road. And secondarily is creating custom systems like the one we talked about for Waters Ag, where we can create a custom system based on their data, their sufficiency ranges and stuff like that, so that they can use it for their customers, charge them an upfront cost for making a custom system, and then charge them monthly depending on how many people would use it.
Let's go to Shandu.
For the second part of it.
Sorry.
No?
Oh yeah, so for our data acquisition, so we have our the Environmental Protection Agency. They release all of their pesticide information that we have access to, and local institutions every year will publish the most up-to-date research that they have. So we collect all of that data on the side, as well as we process it. And on top of that, like based off of your query, you can add information. So that can be like spreadsheets, pictures, PDFs, etc., that we process on our back end. We probably actually showed that in our flow chart. I mean, there's so many different pieces of information that we're able to collect, and we're able to, because we have an agentic system, we're able to, we don't have to have one perfect solution that works for every single agent. We can have like a specialized agent that has this type of data, and then the specialized agent for this type of data, and etc. So it's really powerful. Sorry?
So the proprietary component isn't the data itself, it's how we are able to process it and make it useful. So right now, if you go on to see those labels, there's 16,000 PDFs with complex tables and complex graphics that if you just put that into Gemini, if you just put that into ChatGPT, it's actually not going to understand a lot of the semantic meaning of what a lot of that means. But we've created an OCR pipeline that not only pulls the updated PDFs, but is able to process them and turn them into a format that our agentic AI system is able to understand.
So other enterprise solutions also can give us their proprietary data. We create a custom model for them and have a custom pricing plan for them, and then they can manage who has access to that new model that we just created. the right enterprise deal.
Shanu.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Soil analysis, water analysis, are there other real problems that farmers have? Because this sounds like it solves a big problem, but they could need consultants for the others?
Yeah.
So for soil, to answer your question about the soil analysis, what Waters does, they actually go collect a core sample of your soil and use chemicals to read the nutrients that's in it, but they don't tell you how and what to apply. If you put their nutrient samples in our model, it'll tell you exactly what fertilizers to use, how many pounds of them, and how many pounds per acre. And soon with our GIS feature, we'll actually be able to make a map of variable rate applications.
And so just an example actually from a recent conference we went to, if you go back to that last page, it was interesting, someone asked, hey, because your model's trained on all this, can it do accurate soil analysis? And we said, great question, let's try. And so that, you see, I took a picture of their phone where they had a recent soil test, and I gave it to Farmsmarter.ai, and then it was able to produce a plan, if we go on to the next slide here, that was able to say exactly what was needed, exactly what they needed to do, and process it, and that's how the conversation started with Waters, and now we went in and fine-tuned it so it can handle hundreds and hundreds of these data points, synthesize them, and put them into an actionable plan.
We're going to go up to the right.
Here, go back to the names.
Hi, I'm Amy Tran. I'm just curious from an agentic AI perspective, are you using any type of open source tools like LangChain?
When we had our very first product 2 years ago, we were using LangChain because it was stupid easy to use, and we're students learning how to construct these complex machines and whatnot. But since then, we have much evolved from a simple LangChain application.
We phased it out.
Yes.
In the middle.
Yeah, what's your total addressable market, and can you quantify the benefit to that market in terms of time save, cost save, et cetera?
Absolutely. So we looked at our market a lot, and it really depends on which stage of our business we're talking about market-wise. But the initial market here, this is agricultural consulting. So as we said, there are over 3,300 agricultural consulting companies. Each of these companies has between 1,000 and 15,000 agricultural consultants that work there. And so there's about 30,000 licensed agricultural consultants in the United States. So as we're marketing to them, there's an initial tranche, again, because they're going to be our super spreaders, they're going to be our initial, basically paid beta testers that can help us really get the proof we need when we're talking to some of these big companies, and then down the road to expand to individual farms and such and be able to target them because they'll have the market awareness of our product. So it depends on which stage we're talking about, but right now these are the numbers that we're shooting at for the immediate future of the market.
I'm going to go up to the right over here.
A couple questions. First, so you're sitting on top of an LLM.
I can only give you one question, just.
Okay.
Sorry.
So your system is sitting on top of an available LLM, is that right? Like OpenAI or something like that?
A bunch of different, if we want to switch to this, yes. So each agent has its own, we're good? Yeah. So each agent has its own LLM that kind of powers it to make decisions on what tools to call, what other agents to go to. And as I said, it's a very simplified diagram because I didn't want to write 15 circles on there. It wouldn't fit in the PowerPoint.
And so to really address your question, because I think sometimes the proof's really in the pudding here. So what you're kind of talking about sitting on top, that could be classified as like a GPT wrapper, right? Where you take custom OpenAI API and you just build a front end around it. Well, there are some people that have recognized the problem and they've done that. They've built a GPT wrapper. And we can see how that works if we have FBN and Coulter AI, right? We see this, and if we go to the next slide, we can see what the OpenAI response is that's effectively identical to that. And the problem is it's not tailored, it's not actionable, it's just generic information. Whereas if you compare the exact same question with our system, you will see that it is specific information. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. We can go to specific information about the actual thing to use, how much to use, and then you can see if we go to the citations of it, it found the exact part in this ag guide where the specific information from that it comes from. Because we have this complex agentic architecture that goes way beyond, we actually use 4 different LLMs in different parts of the structure.
Okay, so are you saying then, based on your use of these different LLMs and agentic AI, which I mean you can get off the shelf agentic AI as well, but is there some barrier to entry because of your secret sauce that would otherwise prevent Monsanto from using the same sort of LLM and agentic AI?
There's a reason why there's no labels on each one of these different arrows, is because it is very, very difficult to do and to get this system working with these agricultural tools that are inherently very archaic.
So we highlighted these specifically. You know, the entire system of all these agents working together is special and a bit proprietary of how we're able to get them to check each other to get our level of accuracy. But we highlighted the parts specifically that took us a lot of time because there were no off-the-shelf solutions. There was no way to do these parts of this architecture that are specifically needed for agriculture, whether it's processing the labels like we talked about earlier, or doing the soil sufficiency that's just not out there, that you need additional levels, right, of where a lot of kind of the secret sauce lies in a couple of these things. We always joke, I don't know how many people in the audience have seen deep research come out in a couple of these AI labs. Well, we had this going in December, about a month before all this deep research was coming out, and so we kind of speculate that parts of our system are very similar to the deep research of ag.
Mike.
Yeah, so you gave us a suggestion to look on the App Store, and I see your app, and I see Farmsmarter by Farmsmarter Limited.
Like the Farmsmarter app, you mean? Does it say Farmsmarter
No, you
app?
have Farmsmarter.ai, and then there is a Farmsmarter that appears to be Farmsmarter Limited. Is that
Out
a
of-
competitor? Is that just a different version of yours? What's going
No,
on?
so it's actually a completely different thing that works in Africa that does some supply chain management. It doesn't do any of what we do. We do recognize that marketing-wise, that's not ideal, and we've been discussing whether or not it's worth changing some of our naming for it. There's no, with the trademark office, we're all good. We're good because they don't even operate in the United States. So we're all good there. So the conversation we have been having is, should we change it even just for marketing? But legally, trademark, we're all good. Yep.
I had a follow from one of Heath's questions, which was you're ingesting data from different published data sources. Have you gone to all those data sources to see if you need any particular license to be able to essentially like resell their content, I'm just kind of curious if you've circled up and checked all those sources for any of those kind of licensing issues.
Yes, so we made sure to check all of the sources of data that we use, and actually we've been thrilled that a lot of the researchers that this information is being put, they've been 100% on board. They love it, because one of the headaches for them is that they do all this great research, they put it in a document that then never gets read. Whereas our system, when you ask the question and that's pertinent, it can direct them to their research. And so every one of them that we've showed this to is like, thank you guys for doing this, because this is making our research matter. This is putting our research in the hands of people that need it. And so that component of liability, whether it's from the USDA, whether it's the EPA, whether it's these research institutions, is all, you don't need a license for any of it.
With that, we got to wrap up. Thank you to Team Farmsmarter.ai. Now, before we cut out to a break, we're going to come back at 2:40. In the spirit of this LSU team, please join us at the Ion on May 1st for the 3rd annual Crawfish Boil. Brad, that's at 4 p.m. on May 1st at the Ion. With that, we'll come back here at 2:40 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Me about exit strategy.
has his computer open. So Brad, what's happening? Are the emails coming in? Are the emails going out? What's the latest, Brad? You gotta turn your mic on, Brad.
There's coming in performance comments on your MC prop.
Hey, Brad, you get what you pay for, so. Is that bad? All right.
JR, the best things in life are free.
Yes. We're going to be doing this for a while now. All right, let's bring it back to the competition. Please help me welcome from Harvard University, Mab Lab.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay? All right, awesome. Hello, my name is Vienna Sparks, and I'm a scientist at Harvard University building Mab Lab, where we test for laced drugs and spiked drinks. My journey, however, though, started 2 years ago when I walked into my chemistry lab during my very first semester of college, looking for my lab partner Cassie's familiar face. However, Cassie wasn't there. When I was inquired about why, I was hit with the reality that would change my life forever. That Cassie had overdosed due to laced drugs. And the harsh truth is, she never could have known those drugs were laced to begin with, and it cost her her life. Yet her story is not unique. There are more than 109,000 Americans that lose their lives annually to laced drugs, and 5.2 million more that are hospitalized from the exact same problem, all of which equates to a $12.4 billion cost to the US medical system. Yet current products on the market fall short. They only test for a fraction of the deadly lacing agents that cause these fatal overdoses, namely just fentanyl, leaving many other equally, if not more deadly substances completely undetected for. Here at Mab Lab, we knew something had to change. So we built the world's first multi-target rapid test that is capable of detecting the 5 most common deadly substances in laced drugs and spiked drinks. Our solution, using IP-protected technologies, is the first test to market to test for multiple substances on the same device. Our solution is 400 times better accurate than existing fentanyl test strips, all while delivering a result in a couple of seconds, which is crucial when it comes to life or death situations. This solution does not require FDA regulation as a Class 1 exempt medical device, giving us an accelerated go-to-market timeline. Now, let's take a closer look at how to use this test strip. So if it's a drug, whether it is in powder, leaf, or pill form, simply sprinkle a little bit into the provided buffer solution in your test strip packaging. Or if it's a drink at the bar, simply dip the drink in the test strip in the drink itself. Now, let's take a closer look at a demo. Pretend Sky here is at a bar. Somebody hands him a drink. He pours it out. He realizes, I don't know what this is. He wants to test it. So all he has to do is dip the test strip into the drink, submerge it for a few seconds, and results will start to show almost instantaneously. So as he takes it out, we'll walk around and show you those results that have already appeared on our test strip. Hopefully, there's only one line indicating that the test ran successfully, but that Celsius is not laced with fentanyl or roofies or anything like that.
Okay.
So as you can see, there's only one line there showing us a success there.
One live picture.
Are you safe to enjoy your drink, Sky?
Yes, I am. So
awesome.
After the dinner today, feel free to ask us for some test strips.
So if those results were positive, though, it would be a different story, especially if one of my friends or loved ones has already ingested some of those substances. And I'll be wondering, gosh, what do I do next? And that's why we incorporated the QR code on our test strip packaging, allowing users to quickly scan the QR code, taking them to our mobile application, which will prompt them to take a photo of the test strip. This will first verify the results. Say it's positive for fentanyl and roofies. If you receive a positive test, it'll prompt you, do you want us to contact emergency services to your area? If you select yes, emergency services will be sent your way. And if not, and nobody has ingested a substance, you can learn more about each of these deadly lacing agents and learn what xylazine is. And third, we also offer partnerships with health partners where they can see where new lacing agents are popping up in the communities they look to serve, helping inform their public health strategy and market reach. So what differentiates this test strip I'm holding here today from rapid tests you're familiar with, like COVID tests and Prezi tests? Here at Mab Lab, we own 100% of our IP, and it's proprietary IP specifically focused on preventing cross-reactivity. Cross-reactivity is when something triggers a positive response for something it shouldn't, and the barrier that countless competitors have faced when it comes to testing for multiple substances on the same device. We also have a novel AI platform that allows us to accelerate the aptamer discovery process. And you can think of aptamers as small DNA fragments. And These aptamers outperform traditional antibodies using COVID-19 and pregnancy tests because they are more affordable, stable, and scalable. That stability component is particularly important when we're testing things like Celsius and alcohol. And on the scalability component, there are tons of future applications we can expand into here at Mab Lab, as our R&D is 800 times cheaper than existing aptamer development methods with the AI platform. So while here at Mab Lab, we're starting off in the drink and drug testing space, we have plans to expand into the allergen testing space, testing for multiple allergens on the same test strip, and even steroid detection, where we've already received interest from the United States Olympic Committee to build a steroid detection test for the 2028 Summer Games.
And here's why Mab Lab wins against our competitors. Unlike companies like BTNX, which can only test for one thing at a time, mainly just fentanyl, we test for 5 times as much at the same price point. Unlike urine tests, where you need to overdose first and then pee in a cup, we detect overdoses before they take place. And unlike lab tests that cost $500 and takes 3 weeks, our tests are affordable and accessible to the end user. That's why we're going B2B, selling to universities, substitute centers, and government agencies who buy our tests in bulk and fully subsidize the cost on behalf of our end user. Our test strips are manufactured right here in the United States of America at a cost of $5 per unit, giving us a 70% profit margin that we only anticipate increasing with economies of scale. To date, we already secured over $110,000 in sales just in the past 6 months. 86% of these would be recurring contracts at an average contract size of 12.7K. And right here in Rice University is a perfect example of how we execute on a go-to-market strategy, rallying communities, engaging key decision makers, and driving real adoption. A few months ago, we spoke directly with students and faculty right here at Rice to better understand their primary needs and concerns surrounding overdose prevention. Their response: overwhelming support for Mab Lab. Our now run talks, Rice University ecosystem, to get our testers right here in Houston. But that's not all. In phase 2 of our go-to-market strategy, we plan to partner with music festivals, harm reduction organizations, and recovery organizations who all have a vested interest in keeping their community safe from laced drugs and spiked drinks. Then, phase 3 will be going retail through stores like CVS and Walgreens, Amazon, Walmart, as well as bars and nightclubs. That's why next quarter, with our existing B2B pipeline, we're already on track to double our existing revenue. And through our LOIs with organizations like Live Nation, Boston Calling, and Coachella, we're already on track to hit $5 million worth of contracts by the end of 2026. We're here at Mab Lab. Revenue is not our only key KPI. It's also the number of lives impacted with Mab Lab, with the 5 million in contracts saving upwards of 1 million lives. So why now for Mab Lab? First is the legalization of drugs. Our overarching thesis is that as more and more regions decriminalize drugs, there's going to be a huge push for drug safety and drug education. For example, right here in Texas, all grades from 6 to 12 are now required to have overdose prevention kits in their schools. Second is public funding, where the National Opioid Settlements gave $50 billion of funding to purchase harm reduction tools just like Mab Lab. For example, my home of New York City, they spend $20 million every single year just on fentanyl test strips. Again, our tests are 5 times more comprehensive at the same price point. Finally, personal ties. Today, 40% of all Americans have a personal connection to someone who's overdosed on laced drugs. So the time is now to finally put an end to the overdose crisis once and for all.
Our TAM details the $12.3 billion market of drug users worldwide who are already actively using fentanyl test strips, with our initial beachhead being those users who have access to those existing B2B partners that we have those 110K in sales with. We also want to draw your attention to the increasing demand of test strips, with our biggest competitor, BTNX, increasing the revenue year over year the last 5 years by more than 130% each year, and surpassing $88 million in ARR just last year, emphasizing the increased public awareness for harm reduction and test strip solutions like ours. So far, we've already secured $250K in funding, which is awarded from notable organizations, like being the youngest founders to speak on the Disrupt stage at TechCrunch, or winning first place at the South by Southwest pitch competition or the Thai University pitch competition last year. What we've been able to accomplish with this $250K is first, establish a manufacturer, just 1 hour from our lab in Massachusetts, allowing for ease of communication. We've also done 3 production trials with that manufacturer of over 10,000 test strips each, showing that our technology works when it's produced at scale. Third, we're confident in our ability of our manufacturer to reach that scale, because they were previously producers for the COVID-19 tests, reaching contracts in the millions of volumes. We're hoping to replicate the exact same thing. However, we recognize contingencies can happen, so we're currently in talks with the backup manufacturer just in case anything was to come about. So to highlight where we're at today is 110K in sales already secured and are well on our way to meet 800K in sales just this year with phase 2 of our go-to-market strategy. 2026, launching phase 3 of our go-to-market strategy, as well as continuing R&D on a second application of our test strips, the allergen test. In 5 to 7 years, we plan to make a strategic exit via acquisition to companies like Abbott Health, who have already expressed interest in potentially acquiring Mab Lab. Right now, we're raising a $2 million round, which will give us 18 to 20 months of runway, and have already had $600K in commitments from notable organizations like A16Z. What this funding will allow us to do is first unlock that $5 million in sales pipeline, so we can really begin to partner with organizations like Coachella and Live Nation. Second, we'll begin hiring additional sales team members so we can continue to reach those sales expertise. Third, we'll begin to expand our AI platform to reach those additional markets. And fourth, we'll be allowed to go full-time on our venture, whether that means taking a leave from school or pursuing it right after we graduate. And this is the team that makes it all possible. Myself and Sky are both co-founders. I previously scaled and exited my last startup with over 70,000 active users, as well as I'm a 3-time published author at Columbia Medical School. I'm joined here today by Sky, who's previously generated $1 million in sales for another startup and is trained in overdose prevention at NYU. We're joined alongside 3 postdocs at the Harvard Pagliuca Life Lab with over 10 years of combined medical experience and 30+ publications. We also have 2 marketing individuals and sales team, who are Carly and Carolyn, who are helping us and reach our Gen Z audience as pretty famous on TikTok. We also have 5 advisors with over 75 years of combined medical experience, helping us with healthcare startup scaling all across the board. Thank you, and let's save lives with Mab Lab so no one has to lose their best friend and lab partner, Cassie. Thank you.
Let's go right here. Right here, and then we'll go to Richard.
Excellent presentation, though. Can you comment on your detection limit, and also have you seen false positive or false negative results?
Yep, so our limit of detection for fentanyl, for example, is 0.05 nanograms per milliliter. BTNX's limit of detection is 200 nanograms per milliliter, so a substantial improvement to the standard of care there. It's also important to note BTNX can't even detect the lethal amounts of the deadly substances for most of the substances that we test for.
I'm having a little struggle with how this is going to be used. Your risk of running into fentanyl and having an overdose is in street drugs. These guys who use this stuff are not, I can't see somebody saying, oh, I'm going to test it for fentanyl. It's like, how do you see this being used? Would somebody who's cooking the stuff, stick the strip in it? Is that what you're seeing and how it's being used?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So this is primarily for recreational users. Things can be laced in things like Adderall pills that kids are buying in college from their friends. It's been laced in vapes, killing kids as young as 9 years old. It's been in drinks even. But we also test for roofies and other substances in our test strip that are equally as deadly, like benzodiazepines as well. And through our 300+ customer interviews we did with the NSF I-Corps program, we found that 74% of the recreational users we interviewed, ages 20 to 80, had already used a fentanyl test strip. However, 79% of them expressed concerns for lacing agents apart from just fentanyl, validating our idea of building a multi-target test strip. So we're seeing this all across the board, whether it's marijuana, cocaine, and not just these hardcore street drugs like heroin.
I'm going to go in the middle over here.
Thank you. I'm over here.
Okay.
Great presentation, and I'm glad you developed a product like this. Question, you have a $5 price point per test strip. Your competitor, what is their price point? Is there a way to really get it down? Because I would think you'd want to get it down below $5 if you're going to have like 4 or 5 beers in a night. That's $25 just for testing.
Yep, that's a great question. So $5 is the current price we're selling at, but we expect our price to decrease from $1.50 currently all the way down to 30 cents. So by the time we get to retail, we wholesale it for $1.10, and then we retail it for $1.50. So anyone could walk into CVS Health, Walgreens, pick up a test strip for $1.50. But right now, all the tests are subsidized through our B2B partners, so that they get it for free.
Hi, you talk about partnering with universities and government agencies, so I'm just curious, what's your plan for data privacy and data security?
Yeah, so everything we do for Mab Lab data is self-anonymous. So if you want to self-report a test result, we automatically detect where or who is overdosing on what specific lacing agent. And that creates a flywheel for us because we can license that data out to local and state health departments who are required to give reports specifically on data overdoses in their communities. So let's say xylazine is now appearing right here in Houston, but there's no xylazine test strips. That creates a great data moat for us to have. We show them exactly, these are Mab xylazine deaths that are occurring in your community. You don't have a solution to test for it yet. That's why you need a solution like Mab Lab that's more comprehensive.
Jikesh.
Hi guys. Are there any certification authorities or like regulatory bodies like FDA cleared or something that can be applicable to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we don't require FDA regulation as we're a Class 1 exempt medical device. The only future FDA we would need is if we were to translate our AI model to working on therapeutics specifically. But none of the allergen testing or anything like that would need FDA.
I'd like to understand your intellectual property position. You refer to it, but what have you really got that's unique, that can't be reverse engineered, and that protects you from low-cost manufacturers undercutting you longer term?
Yeah, so we've engineered a way to novelly impact our membrane design of our test strip, essentially using novel materials typically not in test strip membranes like rapid tests, COVID, or pregnancy tests to prevent cross-reactivity, which is the barriers that countless competitors have faced in testing for multiple substances on the same device. Within our IP, you couldn't come in and build a test strip for 3 substances or 4 substances. That would fall under our IP for the way that we approached it. And the closest alternative we've found to doing what we're doing is with a $70 biosensor. That's the only way that we found that wouldn't infringe upon our IP. We also have our intellectual property on our AI algorithm, which is a trademark or trade secret, specifically allowing us to source these small aptamer fragments that are better and outperform traditional antibodies, which are commonly not used in rapid tests because those aptamer selection processes take so long. We've cut that time in a fraction of that.
You did a great job showing us your vision for the first couple of years. Take us a little further out. What is this going to look like, and what's your exit strategy?
Absolutely. So we're planning to scale this to as many diagnostic applications as possible, or potentially begin licensing out our AI platform. There are also a lot of diagnostic comparables in this space for consumer diagnostics specifically that are all been $500 million plus in acquisition. So looking to make a strategic exit, we've already received interest from Abbott Health for that exit. And then Series B to Series C, 5 to 7 years.
Oh, at the time of exit, they're making $20 to $40 million, and we're on track to reach that in about 4 years.
Yep.
T, you're up.
This is specific to the sensitivity of the assay. It's great that you're showing a qualitative, but specifically when you're going for Olympics or for drug testing. So your range is going to be different. So you're too sensitive. So how is it going to solve the problem? If it's just going to be a test strip, what is the concentration issue there?
Because I'm confused what your question is. Sorry, could you mind repeating it?
Yeah, specifically in the Olympics, right? For example, you're targeting drug testing. So yours is really sensitive, the lowest lows. But then when you're doing a qualitative test like this, you're not going to solve the real problem of what concentration is below or beyond the qualification level.
Our thesis right now is that any substance and any amount of fentanyl is deadly, so we wouldn't want somebody taking it. So our idea is that if we wanted to detect the lowest amounts likely to cause any sort of harm or overdose, so we detect below all of those amounts. BTNX, our biggest competitor, can't even detect the lethal amounts, and we're miles ahead of that. And for steroid detection tests, we'd want to make sure that there's no steroid detection in their system or anything like that. So we're just testing the amounts that could cause harm.
Theodore.
Thank you.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about BTNX. You said they are not anywhere near as accurate as you guys. They only test for fentanyl, and yet they're selling $90 million of product almost online, right? Online, I'm guessing. What are they doing? What are they priced at? What are they doing that's able to generate so much of revenue?
So yeah, well, I will add that BTNX is only one of 20 different fentanyl tester companies. So anyone can look on Amazon right now, search a fentanyl tester, you see 20 companies just like BTNX. BTNX just happened to be the first one to create it. That's why they gained so much of the marketplace currently. One thing that differentiated against BTNX is because we test for those 5 things at the same price point. So if you think about it from the cost and payer perspective, it's very low cost for them to switch over to what we're doing. Exact same use case as a fentanyl tester, except we test for multiple things simultaneously. And the way to get to market is just through e-commerce. So any store, any university would have to go to their website, buy it in bulk, whereas we're doing the opposite approach. We're going to them directly with our value proposition of testing for multiple things simultaneously and getting them to switch over from BTNX to our test strips.
And with the current B2B partners that we have, there's almost been a 100% switch rate of those who are already using BTNXs to switch over to our test strips because they are that much more comprehensive and testing for multiple substances.
We're going to go up over here on the right.
Great presentation. Talk a little bit more about the use case for allergens, and that seems to be a really big opportunity. Thanks.
For sure. So allergen testing specifically would be, for example, you're at a dinner party, somebody hands you something, you want to make sure it doesn't have peanut oil traces in it. You could be able to quickly test a little bit of the bread, make sure it doesn't have that. So we'd be looking to target multiple allergens that are pretty common, for example, peanut nut allergies, gluten, that sort of thing, and quick rapid test solution there. Your timeline for that, beginning R&D 2026, launch 2027 to retail.
Farza.
It's a very important need. I'm an ER doctor, so I deal with this on a regular basis, so kudos to you all. But BTNX, their main product is COVID test. So I don't think that, comparison is really appropriate of $88 million in revenue. Can you comment on that, please?
The $88 million is only for the fentanyl test strips, that's their harm reduction resources. And I will say that they did create their COVID test for Canadians, but again, the $88 million is just for the harm reduction suite of test.
Richard.
Two things that I know used to be true. One is that roofies were often gamma hydroxybutyrate, which is a very small molecule that two aptamers shouldn't be able to sandwich. And also, fentanyl test strips were, for a period of time, regarded by the state of Texas as paraphernalia. They were illegal here. Have those things changed?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's two specific things that happened since the last legislative session back in 2023. First, Greg Abbott changed his position from opposing fentanyl test strips to now supporting fentanyl test strips. That's because since 2023, 5,000 additional Texans have died due to overdose crisis. And just recently, the Texas House had passed a bill to decriminalize fentanyl test strips, so there's positive legislation pushing towards the legalization of things like ours. There's also additional bills that already passed back in 2023 that are moving in the right direction towards overdose prevention. For example, they require our EMS people in Texas to report overdoses that happen in their specific communities, in their specific hospitals, which goes back to data play. But also all middle schools and high schools, again, are now required to have Narcan and education specifically surrounding overdose prevention.
Please, let's give it up for Mab Lab from Harvard University. Next up is Intero Bios Systems from the University of Michigan. You want to tell a few jokes before? Yeah. This VC walks into the bar. All right, everybody. Tonight at 6 o'clock. All right, please join me in welcoming Intero Bios Systems from the University of Michigan.
Hi everyone, I'm Madeline.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Don.
We're Intero Bios Systems, where our mission is to transform the way that drugs go to market. This is me and my dad at my college graduation. A few months before this photo was taken, he was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. With standard of care, he expected to live for 18 months. So he started looking into clinical trials. Like many patients, my dad saw clinical trials as a way to access the best, most cutting-edge medicine and to cure his disease. We actually fought a lot about it at that time because I knew something that he didn't. 90% of drugs will ultimately fail clinical trials. In addition to this being devastating for patients, it's also a huge waste of time and money for pharmaceutical companies. Most drugs fail due to issues with toxicity or efficacy that weren't predicted in this preclinical testing stage. If a pharma company can identify a drug that will not pass clinical trials, they can save hundreds of millions of dollars per drug. The models we're using in preclinical testing include flat layers of cells and animal models, and they aren't working. We're not the only people thinking about this. Global regulatory agencies are passing legislation to decrease or outright ban the use of animal models in preclinical testing. In fact, 2 days ago, the FDA let everyone know that they will be phasing out animal testing for some drugs. The expected replacement, organoids. Organoids are really cool. They're miniature models of human organs, and there's one for almost every organ in the body. They replicate the cell types and spatial organization of an organ of interest. And at Intero Bios Systems, we have developed a revolutionary organoid model of the intestine that we call GastroScreen. This is a picture of GastroScreen. In real life, it's about the size of a Nerd's candy, and we can make thousands every week. What makes GastroScreen so special is that it's extremely complex. GastroScreen contains functioning smooth muscle, neurons, blood vessels, and the inner lining of the intestine, which comes into contact with everything we consume by mouth. You can think of GastroScreen as a clinical trial in a dish, enabling us to test drugs on human organs before going into human clinical trials. We're really excited to be working with the University of Michigan Tech Transfer Office, who have a great reputation of being super founder-friendly, to license our IP that we're the inventors on. We currently have an exclusive option for 5 patents that protect R&D, scale-up, and the methods to create GastroScreen, a miniature, functional, living human intestine. So what do I mean by functional? This is a video of GastroScreen in the dish with no stimulus doing one of the most important functions of the human intestine, spontaneously contracting to move food through the digestive tract. We were really excited when we saw this because it confirmed to us how complete and complex a model GastroScreen is of the human intestine. It's so complex that we can also induce diseases of the intestine. This is really cool, right? We're the only model that can do this. So pharma companies can use GastroScreen in 2 ways. First is for safety testing. This is to test for side effects like nausea, constipation, and diarrhea to save pharma companies money. We can also induce diseases in GastroScreen and test for GI cures of diseases like Crohn's and IBD, helping pharma companies find their next blockbuster drug.
This might all sound like science fiction, but it's not when you have the world-leading experts on your team. Our academic co-founder and CSO, Dr. Jason Spence, published the first method describing these adult stem cell-derived miniature human intestines in Nature in 2011, literally inventing the entire field. I spent my entire PhD in his lab pioneering the intellectual property behind GastroScreen alongside Madeline, who's a biomedical engineering PhD student in the lab, and prior to graduate school worked at a startup taking a cell-based product to market and to scale. We're super fortunate to have Don on our team. He's our Senior Vice President of Business Development and Strategy. He's an MBA student at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. And prior to his graduate school, he worked at one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. I'm sure you've heard of it, Bristol Myers Squibb, in their small heart model pre-clinical discovery. We have an awesome set of management. We actually hired our first laboratory technician last week, our first employee, along with me, who is now at the company full-time after graduation, and Madeline will be joining us after her graduation. And we have an awesome set of advisors. They've taken companies like ours to market into awesome exits before, including to companies like BD and QIAGEN for over $300 million. So let's talk a little bit about the business. GastroScreen will help our customers fail their compounds fast, reduce their reliance on animals, improve their potential for their data to move into human clinical trials, and save them money. As Madeline mentioned, there's a ton of different organoids for all the different organs in the body, but we're specifically focused on the intestinal space. This means that we compete against things like animal models, like cats, mice, dogs, or monkeys, as well as flat layers of the inner lining of the intestine. We also compete against the 3D version of the inner lining of the intestine in this thing called organ on a chip, which generally has 2 different flat layers of cells, the inner lining of the intestine and a vascular compartment. We are different because we are made from human cells. We can predict human outcomes. And we're the only adult stem cell derived product on the market, meaning we are indefinitely scalable, and I could make one of these from every single one of you in this room with a simple blood draw or urine sample and not a colonoscopy like our competitors. As you saw, we have the major cell types of the human intestine spatially organized in 3D, and that allows us to mimic the functions of the intestine like in that video that you saw earlier. We can also compete on cost. So we have 2 different products, one for safety and one for efficacy. The first one is what we've been talking about, GastroScreen, a healthy model of the intestine. This is for all side effect screenings for any medication. So think of GLP-1s or chemotherapies that have horrible off-target effects in the gut. We can predict those. The second is for efficacy. We can take a healthy model and induce diseases like IBD or Crohn's in it, and this allows our customers to test for their next blockbuster treatment or cure. And we sell these in 2 different revenue streams. The first is just very straightforward. We send you a vial of our organoids, you use it in your internal research program, and we make an 80% margin off of those sales. The second is screening services. You send us your compound, we test it on our organoids, we send you back the data, and this is for people not as familiar with organoids. We see this as an on-ramp of them getting comfortable with the model and then purchasing our organoids later.
So we're really excited to be launching this year, and it's important to note that we have no regulatory barriers like the FDA to slow us down. Our go-to-market strategy will first focus on building our credibility through partnerships and publications with pharmaceutical companies. Then we'll focus on scale-up and adoption through partnerships with contract research organizations and distributors to ensure widespread access to GastroScreen. And in the long term, we'll focus on increasing our assay and disease model offerings and expanding geographically. So we've talked to over 100 scientists and business development professionals in the field, and we've heard over and over again that upper management has been pushing for the adoption of more complex models like GastroScreen. We've already generated revenue this year and expect to be cash flow positive by 2027. So the market pull is here and our customer demand is real. We recently received our first purchase order for $50,000 in organoid sales, and we have 2 independent pilot projects. The first is with a top 5 pharma company that wants to use our disease model to discover a new drug for intestinal diseases. And they chose us over our competitors because we offer the only cell-based platform that can accurately model their disease of interest. We're also working with a small therapeutics company that has been asked specifically by regulatory agencies for data in organoids. And this customer demand has also been matched by investor enthusiasm in our oversubscribed $1 million pre-seed round. We have a lead investor in $1.1 million in the bank as of today, but we're leaving the round open in the hopes of meeting some investors here at Rice that we believe would be accretive to our business. This raise will go towards outfitting our new lab space that we opened this past January, onboarding our first customers and generating our first revenue, and achieving our scientific value inflection milestones, which we'd be happy to talk about later. Now, in terms of exit opportunities, we believe an exit via acquisition to be the most likely outcome. And although this space is quite new, we've already seen several acquisitions to date. For example, most recently, Hub Organoids, a company that makes patient-derived 3D intestinal organoids, was acquired by Merck this past January. They received no equity financing and sold for over $100 million with just 1 product. Now imagine what we could do.
We can move into other organ systems, reducing the amount of animals used in research and modeling even more human diseases. We can use this data to then move into personalized medicine, making organoids for individual patients and predicting which cures will work best for them. And this is all setting up for something even bigger, artificial organs, which are going to revolutionize the future of medicine. We have a really big vision, but we can start making progress today by focusing on our core mission, ensuring that clinical trials live up to the promise to patients.
Patients like my dad. In 2019, he ultimately decided to go with the standard of care for his cancer treatment, and he was really fortunate to be in the less than 5% of patients with his diagnosis that live 5 years past their diagnosis. This is him and I a few months ago celebrating my engagement, and he'll be at my PhD defense this fall. But not every patient is so lucky, and not every patient has a standard of care to rely on at all. At Intero Bios Systems, we're revolutionizing drug discovery with miniature human organs. Thank you all so much for your time, and we're happy to take questions.
Great job, Riaz.
Really great presentation.
Thank you.
Since your offer today, if I understand it correctly, is to come in on an existing round, is that right? That you've already raised some funds on, you've raised $1 million on. Could you tell us the terms of that round, please?
I'd be happy, can you hear me? Yep. Okay, I'd be happy to talk about the specific terms offline, but I can tell you it's just a straight YC safe with a post-money cap, no discount.
Okay,
happy to talk further. Thank you.
Yeah, gotcha.
Impressive, first of all. That competitive slide looked great, but can you talk about some of the downsides of using organoids? Like I'm thinking about, you don't really get to see the impact of the drug on the whole system, right?
Sure, definitely. Would you like to talk about risks?
Yes, of course. Yeah, so you make a great point. When we're looking at models of the intestine, we're just comparing, against one organ. Of course, holistic effects on the body are not going to be captured in our model, but we think of the intestine as a really important site for side effects. Intestinal side effects are some of the most common with drugs, and since most drugs are taken orally, they'll interact with the intestine and be absorbed by the intestine. But to your point, you're completely right. We'd love to partner with organ-on-a-chip companies, and as we perhaps expand into other organ models, if we can capture the full complexity of a human body with multiple organoid models, that would really, we think, move the field forward in that way. Thanks for your question.
Can you explain how you plan to scale up to manufacture large numbers of these organoids and to provide this wider range of services, starting from just a small lab in Ann Arbor?
Absolutely.
Thank you. This is a great question. It keeps me up at night. So we are working right now. So right now we're manufacturing the organoids at lab scale, and that is
grad student
scale. Thank you. So that's working well for us. We know we'll be able to meet our customer demand this year, but it's going to be really important to scale further. We're currently working on a really exciting new manufacturing method that generates organoids with 100% reproducibility and formation efficiency, and we believe that this is automatable. So we're hoping future fundraising rounds can be moving towards that goal of automation, and so we can manufacture the organoids at large scale. To your point, of course, screening services aren't necessarily as scalable, and that's why we hope that our business moves from those screening services towards more direct organoids for purchase.
And while we have it up on the screen, we also are working on this model where we're able to flip the inner lining of the intestine to the outside, which will allow us to do a lot of absorption studies and direct access to that really important layer.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
Let's go Richard up on the right.
I wanted to ask about immunological aspects. So, 6 of the top 10 drugs are monoclonal antibodies. Immuno-oncology is the thing of the day. And you mentioned, for example, Crohn's disease that has an autoimmune component. How do you capture that whole immuno aspect?
I can take it. Thank you so much for asking. Our pharmaceutical customer has actually been pushing on this really hard. They really want an immune competent model, as do we. So we've actually, part of the reason we're increasing this fundraise is because we've been getting so much demand for this immune competent model, we need to hire a PhD level scientist and we need to go. So it's actually pretty simple to do. We can take the same source of stem cells, take one into an organoid and one into immune cells, and then we figured out a way to mix them together. And what we're hoping to do moving down the line is to take donors with Crohn's or IBD and take their immune cells and put it into an organoid to really capture that genetic part of that disease. But we're thinking about it too. That's what keeps me up at night. So thank you.
David.
Explain to us simplistically how you create these organoids.
Sure, I would love to. So we can take, sorry, huge nerd. So we can take a living cell from anybody in this room, any adult, and we can turn it back into this like naive state where it can turn into any cell in the body. So once we have this cell, it's called a stem cell, we can really nicely ask it to turn into an intestine by showing it the cues that it would see during human development. So at the end of this process, they butt off these little balls of cells. We can collect them and grow them in, it's literally Gatorade, like this red liquid that has the same components as Gatorade, and they turn into these beautiful structures that you see over here. So that takes about 9 days, and our MVP, we call it mature at 28 days, and they can grow indefinitely. You just might need to cut them in half because they do make mucus. It's really gross, and sometimes they get really full of it, but that's how we make them. Did that make sense? Great, thank you. Okay, I appreciate it. I'm lost.
Oh, John.
Okay.
So I've read articles that say the composition of people's microbiome affects how drug toxicity and efficacy are affected by the microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
Since this doesn't really have its own microbiome, how do you know the test results you're getting are accurate?
Totally. So for those that don't know, we grow these in a sterile environment because if you get bacteria in it, it like kills the culture. But to your point, it's really, really important that we have the bacteria because they alter drugs and also they help the intestine mature. So we have this really awesome paper from our lab where we actually micro-injected bacteria into the center of the organoid and it matured the organoid, which is cool, but we cannot do that high throughput. So part of the the inner lining of the intestine out model right here, we believe this is going to be a really good way to study that gut microbiome because we'll have direct access to it. So whether it be adding a drug to the bacteria and then taking the drug out and adding it to the organoid or directly adding the bacteria, we do believe we can capture that and it's something our customers are also asking for. So we're thinking about it. It's a great question.
Neil.
Do you have a vision for testing it out for IV drugs, say targeting GI cancers or something? Is it only for oral? Do you have a vision for using the organoids for IV infusion drugs?
For intravenous?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, wow. Sorry, everybody. I got a PhD in this, so I could go on forever. So we have this, thank you, great question. We have this really cool experiment where we're able to take these organoids, since we're the only ones with this vasculature that forms by itself, and we can actually put it in a bed of blood vessels. Oh, wow. Okay, and they'll hook up to the blood vessels. So in yellow are the blood vessels, and we're actually able to flow liquid through it. So we believe we can hook up to our organoids blood vessels and then flow drugs through it and mimic that exact thing. So for anybody who doesn't know, he's talking about drugs that are injected into your bloodstream. How do we mimic those? We think we can do it. We're actually going to write an SBIR on that for the September deadline. So we're really excited about it. Thank you. Great question.
We're going to go up to the right over here.
Since you're creating your own system that has some artificial elements, are you having to change the treatments from what the doctors would do, or to test the pharmaceutical companies? And if so, how can you really publish things that are, tested by the pharmaceutical companies or the scientists that are using the old methods?
Sure. Do you want to speak to our project in the blinded compounds, maybe?
Sure, yeah. So this is a great question, and it brings up a really important point. We're not going to have the drugs go through the esophagus and interact with the microbiome, as other people have pointed to. So there's really no perfect model that we can use in the lab. In terms of what's available out there, we really think that this is the best option for pharmaceutical companies. And we did write an SBIR in order to compare ourselves directly against all of these other models in the space that we actually 2 days ago found out we think we got a fundable score on it, so fingers crossed there. But did that answer your question? Okay. I know you don't have the mic anymore. We'd be happy to talk more after. I want to make sure I answer it. Great. Yes, thank you. Sorry, I forgot that component. So we're really excited to be working with this large pharmaceutical company. They are testing some blinded compounds with us, but they're also testing positive controls. And what's really exciting for us is that pharmaceutical company is allowing us to co-publish a manuscript with those positive controls only and really show the world how useful this system is. So that's going to be great marketing for us. And we're really excited to, tell people that we've been working with this awesome pharma company. Thank you for your question. Sorry it took me a while to get there.
Jim.
Sorry, thanks. Good presentation. Maybe I missed it, but what is your revenue model?
Sure.
And what are your capital needs going forward?
Oh, go ahead, Don.
You can go to that.
Okay. Yes.
So we have two revenue models. There's the direct organoids for purchase. So it's essentially we're shipping 100 organoids in a really small vial. It's about that size. And we're selling that for $5,000 per vial to companies in our pilot projects. Now, cost from a unit economics perspective, it costs us about a little under $1,000 to produce 100 organoids. And that builds in a lot of things like labor, components, freezing, shipping, and also lost batches due to failure of QC. We also have our screening services, and that would be for companies that maybe aren't quite as familiar with organoids themselves. So they don't want to take them on and try to test themselves. They don't know how to deal with them. They don't know what data they can get from them. They ship us their drugs. Generally speaking, they'd be blinded. And we will give them back data, whatever data they want, from those drugs. And that is going to be a little bit more variable in the pricing. So we're basically going to calculate how much every single experiment would cost that they want to do, as well as labor and all those things, and then just build in a 35% margin there. Does that answer your question?
Okay, and then in 20 seconds, Charlie can answer the
Yes,
second
so
part.
to capital needs part, this is kind of how we see our fundraisers and acquisitions going forward. So we're currently raising our pre-seed round for these different milestones. I'm sorry, I only have 14 seconds, so I'm going to keep going. And then we have a seed round where we're seeing ourselves automate this process and really be able to manufacture and scale up. And then finally, we see our Series A as the addition of the models. A lot of these companies are getting bought when they have multiple models, but we're also seeing some acquisitions really early on by CROs and distributors. We actually know a company from Michigan that got bought after their phase 1 SBIR. So it's a really new field. There's a lot of things going on. It's a moving target, but this is kind of what we're thinking. Thank you for your question.
And with that, Intero Bios Systems. Great work. Next up is Mino Robotics from Carnegie Mellon. Hi, everyone. Sit down. Take it down a notch. What time do we have to be at the Hilton Americas? I'm channeling my best Brad. What time do we have to be at the Hilton Americas? That's my best Brad Burke.
What time will we get out of here?
I'm standing in the way, right? All right, from Carnegie Mellon University, Mino Robotics.
All right, thank you guys very much. My name is Bing, co-founder and CEO of Mino Robotics. This is Xinyu, co-founder and CTO of Mino Robotics. I'm also a PhD candidate in biomedical engineering, developing cell therapies. I spend long hours culturing cells every day, even on the weekends. Heck, I even got a chronic low back pain from just sitting there all day, every day, pipetting. And despite I spend so much time and effort on culturing cells, I still do not have enough yield, quality, consistency for my experiment. And contamination always happens. And this is not just my problems. Over 90% of cell cultures happening in the lab are done by a human. I mean, the scientists from the Intero Bios Systems, they probably understand what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's really slowing down the progress from idea to translation. And then I start thinking, what if there's a robot that can do all the cell culture for me? I mean, I can just tell the robot, hey, prepare this 10 flasks of cells for me by Monday. and then the robot do all the work then instead of me. I can only imagine.
Hey Bing, I have a surprise for you.
Right?
Let me introduce Mito Associate, a patent-pending intelligent robot built for scientists like Bing by automating cell culture. One robot is equivalent to the productivity of 3 scientists, achieving 300% more outputs and bridging the scalability gap across diverse cell lines. The reliability of Mito Associate provides both significant labor cost saving and improves productivity. And therefore, for scientists like you, Bing, will have more time to do groundbreaking research.
I probably just hit the gym for real. But this is not a vision anymore. It's a reality. We have just installed our second robot in our customer's facility. And I don't know if any of you saw the movie Iron Man. I'm sure a lot of people saw the movie. This is the customer's feedback. This is like the Iron Man and Jarvis for lab automation. Because we are the first robot in the lab that you can talk to, that you can interact to. You don't have to click the button anymore. Talk to the robot. And then the robot can process your language or your text, convert that into scientific protocols, and then control different parts of the robot to finish the task that you want it to do. We also have computer vision inside that you can always check on the cells, check on what's going on inside the robot to make sure everything is okay. And you always get a constant update on cell quality, cell health, cell contamination too. And the most important thing is the self-learning intelligence. The intelligence can learn almost all the cell culture protocols. And if there's new protocol coming out tomorrow, new science coming out tomorrow, it can learn that immediately, faster and more efficient than any human can do.
We have achieved over 50,000 in revenue, and we estimate to have 500,000 by the end of this year. We have raised 1 million pre-seed from Draper Associates, and because of this support, we were able to deliver 2 prototypes. And by the way, this is also where our revenue came from. Our first customer loved our product so much that they gave us a 250,000 letter of intent for a development contract. With our partners in manufacturing and distribution, we aim to have 80% gross margin when commercialization officially starts. We aim to break even by 2026, and by 2027, we aim to have 6 million revenue with 3 million profits.
So the business model really focuses on robotic service. We let our customers hire our robotic scientists, just like how they hire human scientists, but less cost, of course. And this creates a lot of flexibility for customers. A lot of the projects are based on years, 3-year projects, 5-year projects, and they can hire our robotic scientists for that 3-year, 5-year. If they're done with that, they can return that robot back to us. There's no large robot sitting in the lab just idling, just sitting there taking up space. I mean, space is actually very precious for lab offices, right? Labs. And yeah, so if some of the customers still want to have this option of pay for once, use it forever, we'll have that option. You can do that, but then you have to subscribe to that intelligent software on a yearly basis. I mean, you can still use the robot for sure without the intelligence, but with the intelligence, oh boy, you can do so much things with it. You can learn, and you can do science much more efficient, much more convenient. I mean, you can go on vacation at the South Miami, and you can pull out your phone and start doing science immediately. That's the convenience that we want to create for the scientists, and we also have our own consumables such as pipette tips, bottles that are made specifically for our robot.
We target research labs in biotech, pharma, CROs, which are contract research organizations, and academic institutions. According to data from Thermo Fisher, which is the largest lab instrument company, there are 450,000 labs around the globe, and each of them have 200,000 annual budget on average for cell culture and related tasks. We are addressing a $96 billion market with a 26% growth rate.
So some of the existing technologies, they're just too hard to use. I, as a scientist, and some of the other scientists feel the same, is we have to get trained hours and hours to use them. I mean, a lot of them costing 500,000, $1 million, $2 million, and you do not want to be the one to break it. So, and then After learning that, you still need to spend hours and hours setting up the protocol. And some of the companies, they have to hire a position called automation engineer. So that you as a scientist need to talk to the engineer first, and then the engineers operate that robot. We have an AI automation engineer in the system. There's no automation engineer for us anymore, or for the scientist. So we really reduces that barrier to use advanced and sophisticated system with intelligence. And then also scalability. A lot of the systems are either too small in scale or too big in scale. And that goes to the flexibility as well, is that scientists, they do not culture one cell line at large volume. That's for production. We culture different cell lines, cancer cells, liver cells, kidney cells, you name it, but at a medium volume. So we want to create that flexibility tailored specifically for research lab use. And then affordability. Probably some of you already heard federal funding is being cut. And even without federal funding being cut, a lot of labs simply cannot afford $1 million equipment for cell culture. So we want to create that affordability and accessibility for research labs. And that's even more helpful with our robotic as a service model. And with that being said, we'd like to raise another 3 million seed to really add fuel on fire. Initially, we were raising the 1 million pre-seed. We didn't know we have another 4 customers waiting on the line. And our engineering capacity can only allow us to satisfy 1 customer at a time. So now with some more interest, more traction, more demand, we'd like to scale up the manufacturing. Build more robot, sell more robot, and also establish this distribution channel with our customers so that they can sell our robot with their lab instrument, really fulfill that ecosystem. And then we also want to establish this universal intelligence. The current AI is only contained within our box. We want to control every robot. I mean, that sounds ambitious, but this is the goal and vision our customers wanting us to achieve. The reason they want us so much is we are able to help the customers achieve this thing called dark lab. Dark lab meaning no human will be in the lab anymore. Everything will be automated. So in the future, human only need to focus on creativity, and that's the thing that we're good at. And the robot will be focusing on the execution. To create that quality, the efficiency, the speed for life science research. So this is the team. We are scientists and roboticists from Carnegie Mellon University as well as Northwestern University. And we also have some great advisors and mentors who came from the industry. Andrea, who was my professor back at Wake Forest when I was doing my undergrad there, taught my tissue engineering. She left, then sold her company, built her company, sold her company, then joined our company as well, continuing her mentorship to me. Rumi did his PhD in computational biology and then postdoc at Carnegie Mellon as well. He's the first guy developed AI designed vaccine that went into clinical trial at Sanofi. So he's bringing a lot of that corporate strategy as well as acquisition, as well as AI applications at different fields. And then Art sold a lab instrument for over 25 years. Great guy, very experienced in manufacturing and distributing lab instrument like ours. So yeah, I have some demo clips, I have some demo videos in the appendix, I have some more. If you guys are interested to learn more, talk to me off the stage. But this is Mino Robotics. So we are robots made by scientists for scientists. Thank you very much.
All right, let's open up to Q&A. Let's go D, then let's go right here. Let's sit right over here.
Thank you. My question is specifically with cell culture. You said you can handle any kind of cell culture, right? Suspension, adherent cells.
Adherent, yep.
So, there are several nuances in the cell culturing. So, with regard to adherent, you have to stripsinize and then check the viability, and there's so many manual process involved. So, how are you taking care of these challenges when you're robotic within that ecosystem?
Yeah, so okay, a little secret for the robot. We have 4 main components. One is the incubation at the bottom. And the top part is the liquid handling. And then we have a mini fridge inside, well, what we call a metal fridge, but it's a fridge. And that you can store trypsin, like you said, buffer, 5 different types of cell culture media. And then it will, all the liquid will be warmed up to 37°C before they dispensed into the cells. And so that's kind of, and then air filtration system for the whole system. So that's kind of the technical hardware side. And then on the software, we also have an imaging system, and the software can always check on the cells, because for the trypsin, we want to have the cells lifted, right? So we can tell the morphology change of the cells. So we can grab the cells, the robot grab the cells, put it onto the imager, check if it's detached. If it's detached, put it back and add some more or neutralize with the media. So that's kind of the whole process of that trypsinization. Yeah, we can wire a centrifuge to the system as well, but some of them we don't need a centrifuge because we have a different type of technical kind of details or protocol. I can share this with you a little more detail after. Yeah.
Richard, then Theodore, and Jen.
Richard Wilson, University of Houston. So I've done cell culture by hand, and while it was a lot of fun for a little while, I very much appreciate your product. So did you build it all yourselves? Do you build all the metal parts of the robot and all of the software stack? I would imagine there are things you could plug in that would save you a lot of trouble.
Yeah, so right now we are at, it's not showing picture, oh wow. So right now we are at a accelerator called Mab Robotics, and it has great resources in technical and business development. So our facility is in Boston Seaport, Mab Robotics right now. And so right now the engineering team is Xinyu. We have another robotic engineer, Alan, and another intern. So you'll be surprised. So she did her master and bachelor at Carnegie Mellon, mechanical engineering, robotic engineer. You'll be surprised how good they are at building stuff. And that's literally what Carnegie Mellon is known for. Biomedical engineer, nobody knows about us, but everyone knows about robotics. And so yeah, so right now majority part is built in-house, but we also have contract developers, designers to help us with certain stuff.
I didn't hear you comment on your exit strategy. Do you see yourself selling out to a large instrument manufacturer or continue to build and offer services longer term?
Yeah, so like I said, like you see some of the videos here. On the prototype 1, that's in the Thermo Fisher's technical set. So what we can do here is really boosting the whole lab instrument ecosystem, because there's no so much of a cell culture technology, no at all, for compatible with existing technologies. So Thermo Fisher is one of the potential acquisition strategy. And another thing, Lyconic, they provide our automated incubator. So we use their automated incubator to put it into our robot. They can sell more incubators, because right now, if you don't have automated cell culture, why do you need automated incubator? So we really achieved that ecosystem, like the last piece in the puzzle. And then Corning. Corning is reached out, send us a NDA. It's pretty aggressive, so I didn't sign. So it's another story, but don't sign too aggressive NDA. That's anyway. So that's a lot of, because the flask, you see the thing that's shaking, that's called a flask. We use Cornings or Grainers and even thermals as well. So whichever bought us, we can sell more of their flasks. So it's your choice, but we can be compatible with all the commercial available flasks.
You mentioned that your first customer has given you an LOI for a $250,000 development project. What does that mean, a development project? And I'm curious, are you doing like bespoke robots, or you're building one, and how much difference is there from what you sell from one customer to another? Yeah, so we are right now early stage. We have that prototype, but not the full thing. So what the customers want is, okay, I want it now. I will pay money right now, so I can have the prototype at least. But they know that we haven't finished the whole thing yet, so they will have us, what that development contract is, have us continuously upgrade on that prototype until it becomes the final. So at each milestone, they will give us some money for the upgrade. They give us some money for the upgrade. So eventually, once we finish the full robot, we'll receive the total contract payment. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. What a great pitch. I'm very curious how you're going to scale the company in terms of making it less capital intensive, given hardware requirements as well? Who are your key supply chain partners, et cetera? Thank you.
Yeah, so as an AI company and robotic company, of course, we leverage AI a lot in a lot of our operation. We code with a lot of AI support, we design with a lot of AI support, so we try to minimize hiring people, and unless someone is very experienced, very technical, very good, then we'll get on the team. So we try to kind of control that expense. And then in terms of supply chain, we are in kind of both Massachusetts and Pennsylvania, and we're in Mass Robotics, and then we are resident at the robotic factory at Pennsylvania. So we have great support resources in both states in terms of manufacturing, in terms of logistics. So right now, everything is happening inside the US, and we're kind of proud to say that this is a first US company that's developing something like this. Some of the competitors on the competitor slide, they are from either Korea, that's taking 12 months for them to ship something to the US, and also from UK. And so yeah, everything is inside the US. Logistics is simple. Matter of fact, the robot prototype tool that I installed, I rented a U-Haul, $599, and then drove it from Boston to Pittsburgh for 12 hours and installed it myself. I mean, it's cheaper than FedEx, but you gotta do what you gotta do as a startup funder, right? So, but yeah, it won't be forever, but right now that's what we're doing.
Charlie, yeah, sorry.
Do you have plans to expand to something like managing labs for animals and others, which are a little more complicated than perhaps petri dishes, because that's a big issue in terms of managing all that?
You talk about animal facility. Yeah, actually, I do a lot of animal work, and I know that pain. But right now, our robot might not focus on that just yet. We want to focus on one thing and make sure we culture cells as good as possible, and make sure the AI is fully competent. And so once we finish this development, maybe there's something in the future. We have to do another round of customer discovery to see if this is something customers really want. And if so, then definitely there's opportunity.
Let's go to Barbara up by the camera.
It's a really exciting company. Thank you.
Thank you.
So your audio was going in and out a little bit for us in the back, so if you answered it already, I apologize. You have a lot of moving parts in this robotic deal, right?
Yeah.
So how do you service that, or how do your customers service all of these moving parts?
Yeah, great question. So we have distribution partners that they already have hundreds of field engineers. And for example, the name I just mentioned, Laconic, we use their incubator. And it's not hard for us to train their technicians, their field engineers, to fix some parts on our robot as well. So we will be partnering with these established companies, distributors, that they already have the engineers. And because one of our strategy is robotic as a service, so every year customers pay us a little bit of money, and that money included the maintenance. So they only pay us, for example, $60,000 a year or something like that, and then that part, a portion of that goes to the maintenance. So if we have our partners that have the field engineer, that maintenance fee will go to them. So they can make some extra revenues, but also it alleviates us from hiring hundreds of engineers to go field fixing robots.
And with that, let's wrap up. Thank you, Mino Robotics.
Thank you.
Okay, how about a round of applause for JR and his helping us out this afternoon.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Judges, now is the time. If you haven't already voted, now is the time to rank the teams from 1 to 7. The voting will be open for about 10 minutes. So you've got about 10 minutes to decide number 1 through number 7. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We will be at the Hilton Americas Hotel at what time? 6. Please do vote. Walk around the company showcase and please vote with your stickers for the 3 companies that you like. And please, we will start dinner at 7, so the faster that you sit down for dinner, the faster we will start announcing the winners tonight, and the faster that you will get out.
Thank you very
So,
much. Thank you very much.
company showcase at 6.
Thank you very much.
Please be seated at 7 at your tables. and make sure that you vote, that you submit your ranking for the top 7 teams. Voting will be open for about another 5 to 10 minutes.